Hey guys, welcome to the channel. As you see in the thumbnail, what if Naruto got harem with Assassin Creed Girls Part 2. Before I start, please do support for more awesome content and subscribe my channel and like this video. Go support and follow the 62,635,377 for writing that awesome fanfic, and also make sure to comment on this story, link in the description. Let's start this video. This was the battle that people were waiting for, the prodigy of the dead Uchiha clan against the son of the Hokage of the Sand Village. Gaara had already made his way down to the field, waiting for Sasuke to show up. "Sir, Uchiha's not in the stadium, what should we do?" one of the Anbu asked the Hokage. "We'll wait, he'll show up soon." The Hokage replied, expecting that he was with his teacher Kakashi. 5 minutes passed, Gemma had announced that Sasuke had 20 minutes before he would be disqualified. The crowd began chanting Uchiha. Uchiha. Over and over again, impatient for the fight to start. Genma looked at his pocket watch, announcing the amount of time at 5-minute intervals. At 1 minute, dark lightning clouds appeared above the stadium, darkening it, then suddenly, a massive lightning bolt crashed down, and from the smoke of the scorched ground arose Hada Kakashi, wearing his standard Jounin gear. Sasuke was wearing black pants, knee-high boots that buckled up, a black guy with the Uchiha insignia on the back, sleeves tucked under his metal. He had his katana strapped across his back, his shuriken pouch on his thigh, his belt kit on the left side of his lower back, black plated leather armor was visible under his guy, he also had greaves covering his shins. "Are we late?" Kakashi asked. Genma smirked. "Kakashi, this is you we're talking about, of course you're late, but everyone wanted this fight, we waited." "Sorry, but Sasuke burned up his shirt, so we had to go pick him up a new one." Kakashi then walked over to the stairs and walked up. "Alright then. Everyone. The Uchiha has arrived. Prepare for the fight." Genma explained the rules of the fight. Gaara's sand lashed out, Sasuke dodged to the side, moving in as he drew his sword, attempting to slash at the sand user. Each and every attack was thwarted by the sand, Sasuke then retreated to what seemed to be the edge of the sand's range. He smirked, made seals, and suddenly 4 shadow clones appeared, they moved to surround Gaara in a half-circle formation. They all made the same signs at the same time. Fire style. Grand fireball. No, they all fired the flames at the sand user. The sand dome shot up all around him, the outer layer melting into glass. Sasuke then rushed the dome and jammed his blade through it, shattering the glass, but something happened that Sasuke didn't predict. Gaara used his sand armor to protect himself, but Sasuke then moved in with his tanto and attempted to jam it through the armor, cracking it but not penetrating it. Sasuke jumped into the air as a spike of sand shot up, nearly impaling him. He landed a ways away and smiled. "Time to test out my new skill." He turned and began running towards the wall of the stadium, then up it to the very edge. He made the seals for chidori and then more while holding his sword. The Tatsu chidori. He held the handle of his sword at the pommel in his left hand, lightning coursing through the steel of the blade. He rushed down the wall, the blade poised horizontally on his left side, pointing in front of him and his right hand guiding it but not touching the blade. He stopped 1 step before where the dome appeared last and pivoted, launching the blade forward with incredible speed and power, slamming it into the upper right part of Gaara's chest, right where the pectoral muscle is thickest. The lightning coursed through Gaara's body, causing him to scream in agony. Underneath the dome of sand, Sasuke felt something stir, and when he pulled the blade out, an arm smashed him in the face, but it wasn't a human arm, it had claws and blue vein-like lines on it. Feathers fell around the stadium, and all who didn't immediately release it fell victim to this sleep-inducing. Sasuke had not fallen victim, nor had many of the Anbu or his team. Naruto stood, drawing his sword as many shinobi sounds surrounded him and Sakura. Naruto lashed out with his sword, cleaving the head off one of his attackers. He stood, and as he felt another behind him, he turned, blocked the kunai, punched the enemy, and then slashed down. He then turned, cutting another down. Sakura ducked a kunai and sank her tanto into her target with her left hand. She turned and attacked an enemy with her ninja 2 in her right, slashing open their chest. She turned and planted her heel into the enemy's knee, collapsing it. She then used the pommel of her sword to crush his windpipe. Kakashi saved her from the enemy she went to defend from, but was slightly too slow. He began taking out more of the assault force with his bare hands, crushing bones and armor alike with his blows. Back on the stadium floor, Sasuke and Gaara stared at each other and then suddenly took off, jumping the wall of the stadium in one jump. Sasuke in hot pursuit. Kakashi saw Sasuke run after him and called Naruto and Sakura over. "You two, take Shikamaru with you, Kiba too, follow Sasuke, this will be treated as an S-class mission, failing is not an option." "Yes sir." Naruto replied, waking Shikamaru and Kiba, telling them the details, and they ran off after the enemy Jinchuriki and their friend. Kiba took point, Naruto ran second in the line, Shikamaru and Sakura took up the rear. Kiba stopped, he could pick up the scent of Sasuke now. They changed direction and continued going that way. Sasuke ran and ran, but Gaara and his weird sand arms were just too damned fast. What would Naruto do? Sasuke asked himself. He then pulled out a kunai and an explosive tag, launching it in an arc. Hundreds rained down in front of and around his target, which was about 20 yards away. He'd used the shadow shuriken no doubt. The incendiary knives detonated all simultaneously, causing Gaara to stop and activate his sand shield. Sasuke then moved in and tried to carve his enemy apart, each move thwarted by the shield. He then moved back and thought he was positive that Naruto would be sent after him, and Naruto always knew what to do. Gaara lashed out with his sand, he caught Sasuke's katana, and the blade was engulfed and crushed by the sand. Now Uchiha, you don't have your blade, and I will take great pleasure in ripping you apart. You see, mother wishes to taste your blood. Gaara launched himself forward, just as Sasuke brought his tanto to bear. He thrust it deep into Gaara's stomach, he twisted and jerked it up. Gaara screamed, vomiting blood. He jumped away from the Uchiha, and Ichibi healed his deformed stomach and organs. What the hell are you? I hit you with my Gatatsu chidori, my tanto, explosive tags, everything, and yet you keep on healing. Sasuke yelled. I am a weapon, the ultimate weapon, one that can never die and only seeks to kill. I am Gaara of the sand, the Jinchuriki of the Shukaku. Naruto is a Jinchuriki, but he isn't like you. He was raised by assassins, trained to be a weapon, but he still shows his emotions. Emotions will make me weaker, I need to show nothing. They will help you. I used to think like that, but Naruto came and beat sense into me. He should be showing up soon, and until then I'm going to fight you with everything. Sasuke rushed through the hand seals, reared back and used fire style. Fire dragon no jutsu. The dragon blazed its way toward Gaara, who jumped away when he saw the flame. He flung a sand bullet at Sasuke, who also dodged. He threw many shuriken, all of which were blocked by the sand nin and his sand. Sasuke dashed in with amazing speed and began a barrage of taijutsu, his moves literally a blur as he smashed the dense chakra sand. One blow finally got through, and Sasuke then ran in and began pounding on his enemy with the ferocity of a lion who fights for his life. Sasuke slashed with his tanto, used the projectile weapons he had, fired and generally used all he had. Naruto and his group had been stopped when 8 sound ninjas surrounded them. Naruto, go. You're the only one who stands a chance against Gaara. Sakura yelled, using her ninja too in order to fend off enemies. What about you guys? I can't leave you behind. Naruto slashed open an enemy's torso. The number had been reduced to 5. Just go. We'll be fine. Naruto turned, made several seals. Onikuchius no Naruto summoned a fox that was about horse-sized. Hello, my name is Saito, what can I do for you Naruto-sama? Saito the fox asked. I need you to take me to find Uchiha Sasuke. How can I? I don't know his scent. Look for the Shukaku scent. Naruto jumped atop the fox. The fox took off at an insane speed, several times faster than even the fastest horse. Naruto soon reached the scene of Sasuke pinned against a tree by Gaara's partially transformed state. Naruto jumped from his fox back perch and did something Sasuke had never seen. He threw his sword. The sword struck home, sliding between Gaara's ribs. Naruto let his momentum carry him the whole way to the tree Sasuke was pinned against. Gaara, you shouldn't have let your demon take over. Now I'll have to kill you. Naruto walked up and twisted the sword, then pulled it out. Gaara screamed in agony as the cold steel relocated many of his ribs and tore holes in his lungs. Naruto kicked his enemy away and dashed at him, swinging his sword. Gaara's demon arm caught it and slammed him back. Naruto felt his wind leave him, he was sure he even felt a rib crack. Naruto stood up, Gaara laughed maniacally, he went to attack, but Naruto muttered something in Arabic. He'd used a paralysis. He moved forward, he made shadow clones, dozens of them, they surrounded Gaara's ever-transforming state. Gaara, I wish that we could share some form of bond, but if you go trying to kill my friend. He raised his sword. I will kill you. He brought the blade down, all of the clones as well, cutting deep into Gaara's now sandstone-like skin. Gaara screamed, but then began laughing. Naruto pulled back his blade. You've released him. He's finally coming out. Gaara's body began vanishing beneath sand, which formed the Shukaku full stature. Naruto stared. How am I supposed to fight that thing? Summon me, kid. I'll take him down. Kyuubi spoke from inside the boy. Promise me you won't do anything but that. Naruto spoke this aloud. I swear, no harm will come to anything other than Shukaku or anything that gets in my way of defeating him. Kyuubi swore. Naruto seemed satisfied and made the seals, because he didn't quite know the words that would summon the Kyuubi. Naruto looked at his friend and said. Sasuke, say hello to Kyuubi no Yoko. And he finished the with Onikuchius no Jutsu. No smoke arose, instead, a huge patch of the forest burst into flames, but at the same time, no harm was done to anything. Naruto suddenly stood atop a massive crimson fox. Ah, fresh air. Now kid, here's how it's done, hold on. Kyuubi lashed out with a single tail, striking Shukaku. The sand raccoon jumped away in a way that Naruto didn't believe possible. Kyuubi lunged from his powerful legs and bit into Shukaku's thick skin. It howled in agony, the Kyuubi's meter-long fangs sinking deep into it. Kid, wake up the child. It will be over after that. The Kyuubi meant that he had to cross onto the demon's body and wake Gaara by force. Naruto did so without hesitation, he ran down Kyuubi's head, the Shukaku wailing and beating the Kyuubi, getting no results. Naruto walked over to where Gaara slumped from the Ichibi's sandstone skin. He drew his sword, he then dulled the edge and brought it down across the son of another fourth elemental lord. Gaara screamed, the painful metal crushing bones. The sand began to melt away, Naruto grabbed Gaara, pulling as hard as he could, he brought him out of the quickly melting demon and jumped across to his prisoner's head. We did it in Kyuubi. We beat the Shukaku. Naruto was exhausted, he'd fought a supposed prodigy, ran nearly 10 kilometers, fought a demon, summoned a bigger demon, and then pulled a demon carrier out of a demon. What a day. I'll let you two down, I can feel your exhaustion, your female is coming kid. Kyuubi lowered his head and allowed the two to get off. Naruto laid the semi-paralyzed Gaara down and then passed out himself. Sakura, Temari, Gaara's sister rushed to where they had only moments ago seen the nine-tailed fox demon biting down on the one-tailed raccoon demon. They arrived to see Sasuke leaning on his now sheathed sword, Naruto was unconscious, and Gaara was sleeping. Temari rushed over and picked up her brother, who had visible cuts and bruises, marks from broken bones. Sakura ran over to Naruto, removed his sword belt, his crossbow, and his cloak, she opened up the first aid kit he'd brought along, she then removed his armor and began treating his bleeding wounds with the first aid that she knew. His 3 broken ribs would have to wait until they got back to the hospital. That kid beat Gaara badly, he's bleeding and has broken bones, no one has ever laid a hand on Gaara save for the two of you. Temari said to Sasuke. These Namek is Uzumaki Naruto, he can do anything, he has to be able to, he's going to be the next Hokage. Sasuke declared before he fell over, passed out. Naruto had been discharged from the hospital after 2 days, Naruto with 3 broken ribs, his ulna cracked about 5 centimeters from the point of his elbow, and 15 stitches in his side from the claw of the Shukaku, out of commission for no less than 2 weeks. Sasuke was much worse off, 2 broken ribs, right clavicle broken, 45 stitches total, and a broken nose. He was out of commission for 2 weeks minimum, 7 weeks maximum. Sakura and Kakashi managed only minor injuries, a few small lacerations, and some bruises, but neither had such a hard battle to fight. Sasuke was still confined to the hospital, but he would probably escape soon. Naruto stood up, straining because of the brace they placed around his torso to prevent him from expanding his ribcage too far and breaking the soft tissue that was still forming into what would be his healed bone. He hated breaking bones, healing always took so long. The medical that ninja used made it go by much faster, so he would wait much shorter periods of time to get back to his duties. Since he was not going to be doing anything for the next 2 weeks, except for attending the Hokage's funeral in 10 days, he didn't bother with all his gear, only his knife and arm blade, the 2 weapons that required the least amount of movement to use. He decided to go see Sakura and Kakashi, they were training at their team's training ground. Naruto walked to the grounds, he didn't see them, which meant they were playing Kakashi's twisted version of hide and seek. He sat and waited, he figured if he did so for long enough they would sense him and show up. About 3 minutes later, they both showed up, greeting him. So how's our new village hero? Sakura asked. Naruto was slightly confused. You mean you haven't heard? Everyone's talking about you Naruto. They're saying how you single-handedly took on the Sand Village's demon. That's not entirely true, though I'm sure most people didn't see it. We were a distance out, but Kyuubi helped, and Sasuke. Naruto said. It'd be best not to let the council know about Naruto, they're a bit sore on that topic, the whole summoning of the 9 tails. Kakashi was referring to when nearly 1,000 of their best soldiers were killed by the demon. I see, though I imagine that more than a few people would have seen him, I think that it's best to just go and tell them. They're going to go ballistic when they hear you're summoning him. Summons are not permanent, they can be called off, had he done any harm, I would have done so. Good point. Still, make sure that they know that, or you may end up imprisoned, they're not exactly the most honest people, and will twist the facts on you. Then I will do that, who is going to be the next Hokage? From what I've been told, the 3rd died fighting Orochimaru. Yes, he did. The council is still deciding, they're speaking with Jiraiya, he is a very intelligent person, but he says he isn't cut out for the job. They also approached me about the job, but I turned them down. I'm also not good for it. Then who? Maybe he can convince his old teammate to do it, though I heard she's quite a bitch some of the time. Kakashi shrugged. Tsunade, I've never met her, but surely she can't be that bad. Jireya's a pervert and women hate perverts, so I can see why he would call her a bitch. I heard that she has huge drinking and gambling problems. Sakura added. Let's go visit Sasuke, he's probably bored out of his skull. Naruto suggested. Kakashi shrugged. Yeah, I hate the hospital too. Naruto sighed, he really didn't want to return, but this was his best friend and comrade he was visiting. Team 7 arrived at the hospital and found Sasuke's room. Went up and saw he was sitting there, reading a book. What's that? It's called the Iliad, a story about an ancient Greek warrior named Achilles. It's a good book, but the descriptions of everything are ridiculously long. Where'd you find it? Naruto asked, curious. Shikamaru brought it. He said if I wanted something to kill time, this book was a way to do it. I've already read the prequel, the Aeneid, also about this Achilles fellow. Sasuke replied, tossing the book to Naruto. Homer is the author, apparently even though they were a warrior race, the Greeks had an insane amount of free time. Or a lot of civilians. Sakura added. Or both, I met a sailor once when I was in Anbu, he told me Greece was beautiful and had a lot of ports. Kakashi retold the story of how he was assigned to assassinate a man who was on the run from some lord and was spotted boarding a ship. Kakashi found the man hiding on the ship of a Greek sailor and when he boarded the ship to capture the man. The captain had apprehended him and began ranting in Greek, then some man who could speak the tongue translated for him and they spoke for a while longer. The team listened intently to Kakashi and his story. So Sasuke, if it's any consolation, the doctor said you only have to stay for another 13 days and you'll be out. Sakura informed me. Good. I can't stand this place, reading has kept me barely sane. Sasuke remarked. Then we can whip you back into shape and get back to the ass kicking. Naruto smiled. He missed having a housemate. And I can get back to an actual bed, not this pathetic excuse for one. Sasuke hated everything about the hospital, even the way voices echoed in here, even the way the walls felt. I've concluded they make hospitals so damned annoying in order to encourage people to stay the hell out of them. Everyone laughed. Sasuke wasn't really one to crack a joke, not since Naruto showed up, companionship had worked wonders on the two. And you can cook up some of that great tasting salmon ceviche. Naruto added. So are we just here to make Sasuke miss the outside world more? Kakashi asked. You've done well so far. Sasuke really wished he could get outside. You could escape. A few more days of pain meds and bad food and your bones should be healed enough to cope with the stress of getting the hell out of here. Naruto suggested. And I'll get some good sashimi for your coming home gift. 3 days ought to be good. Kakashi said whenever I was injured, I never stayed more than 5 days. When they gave me my last meal and medicine of the day, I ate it and left. So is it just a general team agreement that we all hate the hospital? Sakura asked. Everyone nodded. Okay, thought so. Well Sasuke, sorry about this but we need to go. Kakashi shrugged and they all said their goodbyes and Sasuke continued his reading. Naruto arrived at his home and noticed something was out of the ordinary. He drew his knife in his right hand and readied his arm blade, knowing full well his limitations at the time. He went to the front door and stood to the side as he opened it. No traps. He continued going, made several clones, and had each one search the house from room to room. He went to the master bedroom and saw Jiraiya sitting on his bed. Hey kid. Jiraiya, what are you doing here? Coming to find you. You're coming to find the new Hokage with me. And if I refuse? Then the Sound Village is probably going to attack us again if we can't regroup quickly. So it's a matter of our village's security then. Let me get my gear. Naruto went to his closet, but Jiraiya stopped him. We don't need to leave for 3 days, my spy network has a lead on where she's going to be, and we won't need to be there for 6 days, that's how long it will take for our target to get there. She? My former teammate Tsunade, she's the one the council wants for the position. Kakashi guessed right. We were talking about this earlier. Kakashi always was a smart kid. They wanted him, but he told them no before they could even ask. He says he's not cut out for the job, but he's a great leader. There's a great deal you don't know about him. Some you may learn in time, other things will forever be hidden from you. Jiraiya spoke as much of himself as he did of Kakashi. It seems to be something very common among you shinobi. As well as among assassins. It is a human trait, though the people who specialize in taking lives do it much more. Indeed. So tell me about Tsunade, I wish to know who I'm going to be taking orders from next. I could tell you just the good or just the bad, but I'll tell you both. Tsunade is a strange character, she can be soft as butter 1 second and then bam. She'll explode like dynamite and as hard as stone. She drinks and gambles, has a bit of a temper, but is also very nice and forgiving. She put up with me for 20 years, which shows some serious patience. I see. You and the whole village will grow to love her if she accepts. That's the problem though, is getting her to accept. She's rather hard-headed and left Konoha on some rather bad terms. And that is why you wish to bring me. That and your good company. Jiraiya laughed. That makes sense, no use in bringing an idiot along with you when you go to look for a village's future. Naruto shrugged, a task which his broken ribs made a little painful. Well great, we leave in 3 days, I have a friend on the way who can heal up those ribs nice and new. Jiraiya said and then disappeared. Naruto woke up, today was Monday, the day he was supposed to set out with Jiraiya to find and convince Tsunade to return to Konoha's Hokage. He was dressed and armed, he was bringing all his weapons this time, he was even designing a new knife. His first and most beloved blade was growing thin and worn from its many years of use and sharpening. He also wished to design a new sword. Not because his current one was old, but because he wanted something more suited to his increasingly more ninja-like style. The more time he spent here the more he adapted his arts and fused them with the ninja arts. Kakashi woke early, normally spending these early hours of the morning sleeping, but he felt something strange. He dressed and walked out of his house. Naruto heard a knock at the door, so he answered to find his teacher Kakashi standing in the doorway with a box wrapped in cloth. Where's Sasuke's room? Upstairs down the hall and to the left. Why? He's coming with you guys, I'm gonna pack for him. How do you know? Naruto raised an eyebrow under his cloak's hood. It's what I would have done. He is very much like me. And he wants to surpass you more than even killing Itachi. He hides his true potential. Naruto led him into Sasuke's room, it was very sparse. Kakashi pulled Sasuke's rucksack out of the closet and began packing away clothing, he also opened the box to reveal a pair of sturdy-looking combat boots with 3 straps across the upper part of the boot. He needed new shoes. The boots looked similar to his. I figured he might want some boots. I'm considering getting some too. I wore some when I was in Anbu and they're way sturdier than these sandals. More combat effective too. He then packed extra weapons, rations and first aid gear in the rucksack. He closed up the rucksack and strapped the sleeping bag to the top. I could see Sasuke in Anbu. I may join after I pass the Jounin exam. The special forces life is not a pretty one, you will have to do things that no other ninja will. I've killed more people already than most Chunin. I understand the feelings I get from killing. But you don't like them? No, but I've learned to cope. As have we all. He shouldered the rucksack, grabbed Sasuke's belt sack and katana, which Naruto had cleaned and sharpened. Naruto also grabbed his small pack. At the gates they met Jiraiya, who was puzzled at the pack and sword that Kakashi carried. Why the gear, Kakashi? You coming with us? No, but he'll be here soon. Ichiha? Jiraiya asked. Yeah. He'll come around the corner right about now. As if on cue, Sasuke rounded the corner, seeing Kakashi holding his equipment. Figured you'd want to tag along, so I packed it all up for you. Now get out of here all of you before the hospital sends someone for Sasuke. Kakashi handed the equipment over to his student and walked off. That man's too damn smart. Naruto muttered. He turned and began walking with Jiraiya and his friend. Several hours of walking later and they found themselves nearly 10 clicks away from the village and they came up to a clearing. What looked like a farm, but there was also a large round clearing with no grass. A man and a young boy stood in the circle, the boy attacking the man and getting himself knocked away by the hardwood and katana every time. Still beating your children I see. Jiraiya shouted. The older man looked up, seeing his friend. You've seen my older son, the best swordsman in the whole continent, even better than those assassins. Maybe with a sword, but not in general combat. Naruto said, gaining the attention of the older Japanese man. What makes you so sure? I'm one of them. I know their very ways, and if you were to take an assassin of the same age and pit him against your son would die. How old are you? Nearly 13, my birthday is in 4 months. Naruto responded. The old man smiled. My son Renji is 1 year older than you. The samurai tradition is that a boy is trained from 5 years old and becomes a full-fledged warrior when he passed his Jinpyuku ceremony at 15 years old. We have something similar. At 12 we are sent out with our mentor to travel the world and train in different environments until 1 month before our 15th birthday when we return home and take a test to see if we are worthy of the name of the true assassin. Yutaro. Go get your brother Renji. The older man said to his son. Yes father, do you want me to bring a bakken for our guest? No, I have a method to dull my blade so it will not cut. Naruto said. Just tell Renji to bring his. Before that, I need you to heal these boys, they fought the Shukaku when the Sound and Sand villages invaded, both were injured. Can you do me this favor, Itachi? Jiraiya asked. I will. That these boys could fight and survive against a demon of that caliber shows that they are strong. Are they your pupils? No, Naruto has learned from me, but they are students of my pupil's last surviving student. Ah, the Haddock man. Itachi smiled. The Haddock were born a samurai clan, but they were enslaved and eventually became ninja. They were once the greatest rival to my clan, the Aburai clan. Itachi instructed the boys inside, and as Renji came out, he told the boy to practice with his wooden blade. Inside, he instructed Sasuke and Naruto to lay on what looked like wooden stretchers with seals painted all over them after he had them stripped to just their trousers. Both lay on the wooden beds. Sasuke was first to be treated. Itachi went over his wounds with very concentrated chakra, allowing it to heal the broken bones and lacerated skin with ease. He cut the stitches out of Sasuke's body and then moved on to Naruto. Performing the same tasks, he healed the assassin. They both stood, dressed, and then Itachi had them go back outside. Renji, you will spar with this boy. Naruto, my name is Namikaze Uzumaki Naruto. You will spar with Naruto. Itachi said. Renji nodded and stepped towards the center of the circle. Naruto drew and dulled his sword and knife, as well as his arm blade. He stepped towards the circle. I'm gonna beat you real bad Naruto. Renji smirked, holding his Bakken in a forward neutral stance. We'll see. Naruto also assumed a stance, holding his dulled sword in his right hand. Renji frowned and dashed forward with speed that a young teenage boy should not have. Naruto leaned back and dodged a blade. He stepped in and went to swing, but Renji parried, trying for a headshot, but Naruto blocked with his unused arm blade. The thrust was attempted by the assassin, but Renji sidestepped and kicked at Naruto. He stepped to the right, grabbed the leg and kicked the calf of the other leg, causing Renji to fall back. Renji rolled backward and came to his feet ready to attack. Naruto drew his knife and butted Renji in the stomach with it. He grabbed Renji's sword arm and came down on the back of his opponent and kneeled him in the chest. He stepped back as Renji fell raggedly on the floor. The Aburai had lost. I see you were truthful when you said that the assassins were better all-around fighters, but pure swordsmanship you lack. The sword is to be part of your body, is it not? We simply use them as an extension of our arm, using it to cut or smash. Naruto re-sharpened his sword and sheathed it, as well as his knife. But Renji is certainly very skilled. Naruto bowed to his opponent and Itachi. Well, now that that's over, Itachi, would you be able to give us rooms for the night? I will allow you all to stay for as long as you need, Jiraiya my friend. Itachi smiled. Let me show you your rooms. With that they all went inside. Naruto and Sasuke shared one room, Jiraiya had his own. They ate a dinner of rice, fish and vegetables. Afterwards however Naruto and Sasuke went outside to practice knife fighting. Renji, Yutaro and even Itachi watched as the two ninjas circled each other. Naruto had done away with his cloak and extra gear. Sasuke was too fast of an opponent to face with the extra gear. Sasuke dashed in, ducked the point of Naruto's knife, caught the arm and went in to cut the tendons. The assassin grabbed the forearm of Sasuke and kicked his leg with his shin. With a shove of his shoulder he gained ground and went straight for the throat. Sasuke leaned back and came for an uppercut-type slash. Naruto stepped back, grabbed Sasuke's wrist and turned his arm so that he held him in an armbar. Sasuke dropped to one knee and rolled, breaking his arm free. As he rose to his feet he executed a perfectly aimed back kick into Naruto's thigh, effectively slowing him down if not immobilizing him. He switched his knife hand to his left hand. Naruto used his right hand mostly and only used his left when he was wielding his sword in his right. Sasuke now had the advantage. Naruto was more cautious. He stepped in, feigning a thrust and pulled back. Sasuke stepped in and went for a cut across the chest, but was only rewarded with a knife point nearly hitting his face, but he dodged this like so many other strikes that failed to touch him. They all watched in amazement as the two boys were striking with pinpoint precision, but failing to hit their targets due to the other being too fast. Naruto taught Sasuke almost all he knew about knife fighting, but Sasuke still rivaled him in knife fighting. The fight went on for several more minutes, and eventually Naruto and Sasuke both found a blade at their throats. All clapped when they saw that they were finished. Wow Sasuke, you're damn good with that knife. Jiraiya smiled, he'd not seen or heard of anyone that good with a knife since the man that was notorious for escaping from anywhere they put him and often killing people in the process of escaping. Some even said he could see in pitch darkness. It's his fault. He taught me how to use it, I just learned well. Sasuke put the edge back on his blade and sheathed it. That's not entirely true Sasuke, you have a natural skill with a blade. I pointed you in the right direction, but you advanced farther than I could have possibly taught you. Naruto did the same and then gathered his cloak and other weapons and they both went inside to bed. Naruto woke up with his blade in his hand, Sasuke was the same. He quickly put his boots on, no time for his other weapons, he went out in his boots, shirt and pants. Sasuke quickly followed. They heard fighting outside in front of the house, so they went there. They saw dozens of ninja against Jiraiya, an unknown man who they assumed was Itachi's oldest son and Itachi himself. They rushed into the fray and began striking down ninja after ninja. Sasuke sidestepped a sword and his blade cut through the cartilage of the throat, felling another. Naruto cut his way to Itachi who wasn't faring well, he'd taken wounds on his chest and a deep cut over his right eye, partially blinding him. Naruto made several shadow clones and fended off as many of the remaining ninja as possible. Soon they stood among a mass of dead shinobi. Sasuke had sustained a small cut on his arm, nothing major, but Itachi had been blinded in one eye, stabbed through one knee, and impaled several times. Itachi. We need to get you fixed up. Jiraiya ordered Naruto to get necessary equipment for medical attention. Jiraiya first tried to close the wound in his lung, but Itachi stopped him. I have lived long enough, I've produced 3 strong boys, I can die happily knowing I protected my family. Naruto, Sasuke, for such young men you fight with the prowess of men far beyond your age. Grow strong. Thank you Itachi-sensei. Naruto rarely called anyone by anything other than their name, so it showed that Naruto respected the man. Yes, thank you. Sasuke bowed to the dying man. Itachi, you were a good man, I am glad that you were my friend. Jiraiya smiled. And are you Jiraiya? He looked over to his son. Sanosuke, my oldest son, raise my boys, teach them the secrets of Jigoku Mitsurugi Ryu-1 when they were ready. I will be a father. Sanosuke bowed to his father, who died with a smile on his face. That was the end of Aburai Itachi. After Itachi's cremation Jiraiya had the boys pack up and they set out as the cremation was done at dawn. Jiraiya had seemed rather downcast, one of his close friends was now dead. Even Sasuke and Naruto who had only known him for a day had grown to like the man. So where is Jiraiya? Naruto asked. We're heading towards a town called Tenzaku. There's a huge gambling den there and Tsunade is going to be there. Jiraiya informed them. That's about 2 days away. Sasuke said, unless we travel a little faster. They all nodded and picked up the pace. Elsewhere. Sir, we've gotten reports that all the ninja that were sent to assassinate Itachi were killed. But the mission was successful. Good, what of Jiraiya and the 2 boys with him? They were the ones who killed most of our ninja. The man seemed to frown at this. Have some of our elites go to Tenzaku, that's where they're expected to be going. How many sir? As many as we can afford without compromising our other missions. Bring the Uchiha back alive. I want him here. Now go. Yes, Millard. With Naruto. They were half a day from their destination when they set up their camp. Eventually Sasuke settled for the first watch. He was sitting, playing with the idea of using his Sharingan in different ways than just copying dot. Maybe I can use it to see in dark environments he thought, remembering that man that Jiraiya had told them about, the one who was an escape artist. He focused the chakra into his eyes, activating the Sharingan. He then focused more thought on making everything lighter and with time and some chakra he was successful. Everything he saw was lighter but had a red tint to it. He jumped when Naruto came for the next shift. When Sasuke opened his eyes he yelled in pain. What's wrong with Sasuke? Naruto asked. I tried something yesterday and it's still activated and it won't go away. What did you do? Jiraiya questioned. I made my Sharingan allow me to see in the dark but it's stuck this way. Here, put this over your eyes until we can get you some glasses or goggles or something to protect your eyes. Jiraiya handed him a piece of cloth which he tied over his eyes. So I'll be walking blind for a half day. Great. It's your fault. Naruto said. They rocked up and moved out. After half a day, they reached Tenzaku and found a shop that sold various types of glasses, but Sasuke didn't like them, so he decided to go over to the local blacksmith and he pilfered a pair of dark-tinted goggles. He returned to their hotel room and Naruto laughed. What? Those goggles make you look ridiculous. It's the chicken-ass hair. Sasuke frowned, he'd never really cared for his hair, but he'd never bothered to cut it either. What do you propose then Naruto? Here. He handed Sasuke the razor-sharp knife that he used to shave his head. You seriously expect me to shave my head? You can grow it out to a length you like or keep it shaved. Personally I'd keep it closely trimmed, it prevents people from sneaking up on you and cutting your throat by grabbing your hair. I don't give a shit what you think, I've always had my hair this way. Okay. I just think it makes you look funny. Coming from you, it doesn't really mean much. Sasuke was interrupted when Jiraiya came back. We're on the move guys, Tsunade has been spotted in town. Nice goggles Sasuke. Sasuke smirked at Naruto. They found Tsunade at a bar, drinking with her assistant Shizune. Jiraiya sat down, then Naruto, then Sasuke. Interesting crew you've got here Jiraiya, an assassin and a goggled Uchiha. What do you want? She snapped with the last bit. He smiled and produced a deck of playing cards. Well, as you may or may not know, Sarutobi-sensei is dead. Jiraiya said, shuffling the cards. A look of shock came over Tsunade's face. About time the old geezer kicked the bucket. He was killed by Tsunade. By Orochimaru. Still doesn't surprise me though. We need a new Hokage. Naruto cut in. She looked over to Naruto. So who's the kid? Namek is Uzumaki Naruto. Jiraiya introduced him. So Altair got his hands on him judging by the way he's dressed. Yeah, he was raised there. He dealt a blackjack hand. So do you accept it? No. I'm not gonna die for a village like all the others did. It's pointless. Tsunade said. All of them were stupid for it. This got Naruto angry, so angry that he flipped over the table as he stood up and his arm blade was pointed at Tsunade's throat. Take it back. He yelled. She smirked, she knew that the assassins were trained to control their emotions, so she must have really pissed him off. No. All of them were idiots, my grandfather, my teacher, even your father. She knew that was a bad idea when Naruto's first collided with her face with bone-jarring force. She was knocked out of her chair and several feet back. Shizune stood up, but Jiraiya stopped her. This is their fight. You take it back. I'm going to be a Hokage. Naruto shouted, scaring many of the other patrons. Let's take this outside, kid. She stood up, wiping the corner of her mouth, and walked outside. Naruto followed, holding himself back from planting his sword in her skull. She turned around and saw Naruto standing there, arms down and seething in anger. So you wanna be Hokage, huh, kid? Yeah, and if it means killing scum like you with no honor, then I'll do it. You don't know what that village took from me. They took my father, my mother, all my family, and yet I still continue to serve them. I have honor, enough that when given the choice to stay in Massif and serve them, I said I'd serve the village of my family. I'll make you a deal. If you can land another hit like that first one on me, then I'll come back. And she unclasped the necklace around her neck and held it up. I'll give you this. She pocketed the necklace. Deal. If I don't hit you, then I'll kill you. Plain and simple. Tsunade ducked as the crossbow bolt flew overhead. She moved forward as he put his projectile away. He came in with an uppercut and when that failed, it was a kick to the stomach which she also dodged. Naruto. Move. Sasuke shouted as a ninja jumped from the roof and attempted to cut him down the middle. Several dozen more came, surrounding them all. I count 50. Well, since it's nice and dark, let's remove these. Sasuke pulled down his goggles and let them come to rest around his neck. His gleaming red Sharingan showed bright, he drew his sword. He cut down the first one and crushed the skull of another with his booted foot. Naruto also drew his sword. Jiraiya released a string of seals, using and burning several of them before any had a chance to do anything. Tsunade and Shizune used their individual styles, but Shizune was not one for group combat, so she quickly escaped, using her needle shooter to neutralize ninja who weren't looking her way. Naruto soon was covered in the blood of enemies, his sword weighed heavy in his hands, and his cloak weighing his whole body down. He kicked a man in the chest to knock him back and soon discarded the heavy garment, his black shirt and pants seemed much lighter. Soon he fought with renewed energy. Knife in one hand and sword in the other, he cut the opposing shinobi down. Sasuke slashed the face of his enemy with a knife. As he turned to face another, he felt a blade pierce his right arm. He was taken by surprise by an enemy. His sword clattered to the ground. Now left with his knife, he let his instincts take over and he'd soon cut down many enemies. The carnage subsided as the last enemy ninja turned tail and ran, leaving several dozen dead. Sasuke, Shizune, and Naruto all sustaining injuries, and Tsunade and Jiraiya slightly tired. Naruto walked over to Tsunade, and as she turned to look at him, he planted a heavy fist into her face. I won the bet. You're coming back. He picked up his cloak and draped it over his shoulders, not bothering to button it back up. You little shit. Though I never said the specifics, I guess that was my downfall after all. She sighed. I'll come back. She then turned to look at Sasuke, who was currently trying to stop the flow of blood coming from his right arm. Let's get you three cleaned up first. Tsunade began to heal Sasuke, who had taken the most serious injury, a sword through the right tricep and out through the bicep. She healed his arm, but told him not to use it in any strenuous activity for about a week. Naruto had a few small lacerations and puncture wounds, but nothing serious. Tsunade simply disinfected him and bandaged all the offending areas. Shizune was in a similar state with very minor injuries. The next day they set out from Tenzaku, heading back toward Konoha. Jiraiya informed her of the current state of things, the damages, and the rest of the information that the council asked that he tell her. Naruto and Sasuke talked mostly about Naruto's new design for his weapons and things that ninja converse about while traveling. They traveled at a constant pace and arrived at Konoha in a day and a half. They hadn't stopped for a day like the traveling to Tenzaku, so they had made better time. In town, an older ninja who recognized her waved to Tsunade. Those who had heard rumors of her coming back smiled, knowing that they now had a new leader. Naruto and Sasuke went home and immediately went about their own tasks. Sasuke went to go take a shower and Naruto dropped his cloak and rucksack off in his room before setting off again. He made his way to a store that sold all types of ninja gear and began browsing. Can I help you? An older man asked, a retired ninja judging by his scars. Yes, I'm looking for some new gear. What would you recommend in terms of cloaks? The one I had before was made of a thick canvas, but I decided it's time for a change. Naruto said. Well, if you're looking for anything to fight in, then I'd have to say go for a guy or a vest rather than a cloak. It would allow more movement and often storage space than a cloak, they're less cumbersome in forest and jungle environments, and if you're in water, then it won't weigh you down. The older man explained. Naruto appeared to be in thought, trying to decide what he would do. He walked over to the area where there were different colored guy, mostly shades of gray, blue, brown, green and red. What about the black shirts that most higher ranked ninjas wear under their vests? Naruto asked. Over here. We have all the standard ninja gear and a lot of stuff that isn't standard. He directed the assassin to the area that had all the different shinobi gear that is usually seen on Chunin and Jounin. Naruto looked at the shirts, fireproof up to 600 degrees Celsius, quick drying, and durable. He pulled a few off the rack. He also went over to the weapons rack, looking at the weapons to work on his design. Hey, who makes these? Naruto asked. That's the Kasumi Smithery. They live on the east side of the village, the best weapons in the whole land of fire. Thanks, I'll take these. Naruto handed the man 2,000 ryu for 5 of the shirts. He walked out of the store and headed toward the east side of the village, looking for the Kasumi Smithery. He passed several other shops, this appeared to be the blacksmithing district. Finally he looked up and saw a sign that said Kasumi Family Smithery and he walked in. Hello. Naruto saw nobody in the shop. He heard movement but was surprised at what he saw. You're that guy from the Chunin exams. I'm Tenten, I got booted in the preliminaries. I was looking for the head smith. I'm working on a new design for a sword, but I need a bit of help. Well, I'm the designer of all our weapons, my dad just makes them. So what kind of weapon are you looking for? Naruto pulled out his sword and laid it on the counter. I have this now, and I want something of similar weight, but I want it to resemble a katana. Also I want this symbol put in the blade. Naruto turned and pointed to the tattoo on the back of his head. Well, this appears to be made of a titanium iron alloy, judging by the weight and how sharp it is. You use this one-handed? Most of the time. That's why I want the same weight in a katana design. So I can use it two-handed too. It's easily 3 or 4 times heavier than a katana, pick that one up over there, the black and red handle. Naruto did as he was instructed, and when he did he was surprised, even his dad's swords were heavy, the one he held now was maybe as light as his knife was before he switched out the handles for a lighter metal. See the difference? Wherever you had this sword made must make swords for insanely strong men. How about that dagger there? Can I see that? Naruto obliged and handed her the knife. Same blade, but it looks like you switched the handles out, an aluminium handle now, a brass handle like the sword before. Tenten asked. Yeah, how do you know all of that? My dad's a blacksmith, I'm next in line for the family business, I have to know all this. But I want to know why they used a brass handle and the titanium blade. To balance it out, the long blade would be unbalanced if we had a metal of the same weight as the handle. But since we used a heavier metal it balanced it out. I changed it to aluminium because it was lighter than titanium. The iron was used to keep it as a metal and not change it into a carbide. And so it doesn't explode when we make the blades. Naruto took his blades and sheathed them. Tenten was surprised at his knowledge of different metals and what happened when exposed to heat. So you want a katana made of a titanium iron alloy? I could do it, but it's going to be expensive. Any handle preferences? No, I also need a knife made, not like this one, but also made of the titanium iron alloy. I have a perfect idea. I can get them both done in 2 weeks. If you want I can make it a chikudo so it's not too much of a transition. Tenten knew how hard it was to change from one weapon to another. Especially when you only have experience with one of them. Thanks, that'll work. How much will it run me? I'll tell you when they're finished, that way I can order the materials first. Okay, I'll be back in 2 weeks. Naruto left, heading back to his house. When he arrived, an Anbu was waiting for him. Can I help you? Naruto asked the masked ninja. We need minutes, standing in the office of the Hokage. Naruto, I've been over the reports of the attack on Konoha and according to them you're more than qualified to be Chunin. She produced a scroll, handing it to him. So congratulations, you and Nara Shikamaru were the only ones to pass the exams. The Hokage gestured to the bored-looking teen to his left. Shikamaru just shrugged, he didn't really care. Thanks. I have a favor to ask, I need 3 weeks leave to go and visit Massif. Naruto asked. Tsunade seemed to be in deep thought for a moment, but then responded. You can go if you take your team. That's the only way I'll let you go, I don't want any of our ninjas traveling by themselves that far north. I'll see if they will allow me to bring them inside the city, Massif has never before allowed any outsiders inside the walls of the city. Hopefully you can pull some strings then, because if not then you'll have to find some other way to spend your leave. Naruto nodded before he turned and walked out of the office. When he arrived at his house, he went into his room and began to write a letter to Altair, who was now the active leader of the Brotherhood. It read. Altair. How are things in Massif? I'm doing well, I made Chunin today, and I hope to see you all soon. This leads me to the favor I need to ask you, Tsunade, now our standing Hokage because of the death of Sarutobi by Orochimaru's hand, decided that the only way for me to come to Massif is that you allow my team to come. You know Hada Kakashi, my other two teammates or Uchiha Sasuke, who is not like his brother in the least for his incredible skill with a blade. Haruno Sakura is also skilled, but she still has a long way to go. I'm the closest to her out of any in the village. I know the usual rules against having outsiders in the city, but I ask that you let them come, they will keep all secrets you or any of our brethren allow them to see, I swear on it. Until you write back. Naruto. Naruto rolled up a letter and sent it off with his personal messenger bird. He then got up to go in search of his other teammates. Sasuke was in the training room sparring with his sword against a shadow clone. Hey Sasuke, how'd you like to go to Massif? Sasuke dropped the sword in his hands. Massif was the land Naruto had come from, wasn't it? Sasuke thought he'd seen Naruto in combat, if he could get even a shred of training from Naruto's teacher in Massif he'd be that much stronger. When? I have to wait for Altair to write back and I have to wait for the Kasumi family to finish my new blades, but when that's finished we're going. Of course I'd come. Good. I have to go find Sakura and Kakashi, I'll see you later. Naruto turned and left, Sasuke picked up his sword and felt a fool for dropping it, but that was quite unexpected. Naruto knocked on the door at Kakashi's house, which was promptly answered by Mitarashi Anko. Can I help you? She asked, clad in nothing but a blanket covering her assets. I'm looking for Kakashi. Am I at the wrong house? Naruto swore he was in the right place. No, this is his house, give a sec. Anko went back inside and after a minute Kakashi came out wearing just his mask and pants. What's up Naruto? Kakashi asked. I can come back later if you want. Naruto was unsure of what was going on, but he really didn't want to know. Nah, it's fine, so what did you want? Well I'm going to Massif in a few weeks, but Tsunade wants me to bring you guys along, so I was just seeing if you wanted to come. Yeah, definitely. But I thought outsiders weren't allowed in Massif. Kakashi scratched his head. Even Yondaime never got inside. I know, but Altair will probably make an exception for you guys. Well then yeah I guess. If that's all then I have something to get back to so I'll see you later. Naruto shook his head and Kakashi went back inside. I'm going to pretend I never saw that. And I'm never going to mention this to Sasuke. Naruto thought, exaggerating a shiver. He went off toward Sakura's house. When he arrived there Sakura's mom said that she was with Ino. Naruto then made his way to the Yamanaka flower shop. He arrived at the shop to find that they weren't there either, so now he was on the hunt for Sakura and Ino. He took to the rooftops, looking for them wouldn't be hard. He made several dozen clones to join the hunt. After a good 20 minutes of searching, one of the Naruto clones spotted the pink-haired shinobi and committed suicide to send the information to Naruto. Naruto stopped as he felt the memories of that particular clone and disabled the rest, heading toward his friend. When he reached the location of Sakura he jumped from the roof behind her into the alley below and decided he'd play like he just bumped into her. Sakura was walking with her friend when suddenly she bumped into a green-vested chest. She looked up and saw a ninja looking down at her, then she realized who it was. Naruto. You look so different without the cloak. Ino shouted. Sakura smiled, the vest meant he'd made Chunin. So what are you doing over here in the shopping district anyway? Sakura asked. Oh, you know, just spending part of the massive fortune my father left me. Naruto smirked, they knew that he was putting them on, but he was having fun. Ino heard the words massive fortune, and that was all it took. How massive are we talking? Ino turned to her friend's current love interest. Ino. Sakura scolded. What are you really doing here? I was actually looking for you, you see I'm supposed to be going to Massif here in a few weeks, but Tsunade said I need to bring someone with me. I already asked Kakashi and Sasuke, and all that leaves is you. Naruto looked down on his shorter teammate. Naruto had told her about how beautiful the surrounding mountains and forests were, but she never thought she would get a chance to see them. Ino had also heard about it through Sakura, she had a look of pure envy on her face. Not only did Sakura have Sasuke on her team, she also had Naruto on her team who was the Yondaime's son, and apparently he was going on a trip to somewhere beautiful and offering to take Sakura. So? Are you coming? Of course I'm coming. When are we going? Sakura had gotten over her shock and answered frantically. Great, let's go get some lunch, I didn't come to just ask you about that, we need food. Naruto turned and started walking down the street. Sakura and Ino looked at each other before heading off towards him, nothing like a free meal. They ended up going to one of the higher-end restaurants in Konoha, the place one usually takes a date. The man who would usually seat people gave Naruto an envious look when he saw two girls accompanying him. "Naruto, why aren't you wearing the cloak like usual?" Ino asked. "Well, I've decided for a change of pace really. I'm getting a new sword made too, the hand and a half sword I have now is really heavy, and since I'm working for Konoha now instead of the Brotherhood, I should probably look something like a ninja." "So basically you're dressing for your part?" Ino deadpanned. "Yeah, it makes it harder for people to identify me out of all the other ninjas." They got their food which they'd previously ordered and began eating while talking amongst themselves. Naruto arrived at his house. Sasuke was watching TV, clearly tired from a day of training. Naruto came in and sat on the couch next to him. "How was your hunting?" Sasuke asked. Naruto shivered for a second, arousing Sasuke's attention. "What was that about?" "Ankonik at Kakashi's house." Naruto rambled. Sasuke got the general idea from that. "Wasn't Anko the second exam proctor? The crazy woman with the huge rack and knife fetish?" Naruto burst into laughter. He'd never heard Sasuke say something like that. "That's the one." Naruto was still laughing. "I can't believe you said that." "What? That's the easiest way to describe her." "How would you describe her?" Sasuke responded. Naruto could find no answer to the question. "So far if Altair decides that the rules can be bent, then it looks like we're going to Massif." Naruto stood up. "I'm going to bed, I want to start doing missions until I get the status on our vacation." "You can do solo missions now, Lucky. I'll still come do missions with Team 7. I won't abandon you all." With that Naruto walked upstairs. 1 week later. Naruto woke up to the sound of his messenger bird scratching at his window. He allowed the bird inside and took the message from its back. He opened it and it had the red and white ribbon of the Brotherhood. Naruto opened the message. It read. "Naruto. I would be glad to allow Kakashi and your team to come to Massif. I have been thinking about having a treaty signed with Konoha due to our unofficial involvement with them for so long and make it official. I'm proud of you for making Chunin, it means you're one step closer to your dream. Send a letter ahead of you when you come so I am able to have your quarters prepared. Al Ramaz, your old training partner broke his new training partner's arm last week. He's too cocky the new kid, maybe your friend Sasuke could teach him something if he's as skilled with the blade as you say. This Sakura girl, what is she like? If she can catch the attention of Anamika's like your mother, then she must be wonderful. Your mother was Minato's first girlfriend and his last sadly, as they both passed away they did, but they loved each other deeply. I hope to be seeing you soon, Naruto, and to meet your new friends. Be safe on your trip. Altair." Naruto rolled up the letter and put it in the drawer with the rest of Altair's letters. Al Ramaz was his old training partner, much like the three-man cells here in Konoha they trained together and learned as well, and in some cases they spent their 3-year travels together. Al Ramaz was strong, the only younger member of the Brotherhood to ever match Naruto in a fight, that was until Naruto had destroyed the boy's ankle with a sweep. Naruto and Al Ramaz always wrote. Naruto often wrote 2 letters to Massif, one for Altair and one for Al Ramaz, one of his only close friends there. Naruto dressed and went to find his team and tell them that their trip was a go. He found them training at their usual field, he told them, they smiled and asked him to train with them. It was then that Naruto realized that Kakashi had a weapon he'd never seen before. "What is that, Kakashi?" Naruto asked, pointing to the sword he held. "It's my Anbu sword, I had one custom made when I kept destroying the regular ones. Titanium iron alloy, heavier but stronger." Kakashi handed the blade over. "My swords and my new ones are going to be made from the same thing." It was a standard-looking sword, slightly shorter than a katana, designed to be carried on the back, but not short enough to be a technical kodachi. It had the kanji for lone wolf etched into the blade. "They called me that because I always took solo missions, even when the mission required teams. You guys are the first team I've ever worked with since my genin days." Kakashi said, accepting the blade. "Why? You seem to work well enough with other people." Sasuke questioned. Kakashi had a sad look in his visible eye. "It's because when I was young my team was sent to stop an Iwa team and they were all killed, that was when I got my Sharingan, and it was one of the missions that got Yondaime his reputation as the Yellow Flash. I was always afraid of losing any teammates I would work with. Altair was the only one who I worked with in Anbu, but we never really were a team, we went when there were too many enemies to kill single-handed." "So you're the ninja he used to talk about?" Naruto muttered. "Yeah, we would turn missions into sort of contests, we'd play who's the better killer as some people call it." Kakashi looked at his team. "Enough moping, let's go celebrate going into land that's essentially unknown to the ninja world." They all walked off the field, but Kakashi stopped Naruto. "You didn't tell them about Anko, did you?" "Not really, I told Sasuke I saw her at your house naked, but I never really said anything." "Good, they don't need to know." Sasuke called her the crazy woman with the huge rack and the knife fetish. Kakashi laughed. Doesn't sound like something he would say. He began walking toward the gate. That's what I said. Naruto walked with him. Naruto was finally about to get his new blades, to say he was excited about covering it. He made his way to the Kasumi weapon shop to see Tenten was manning the counter again. Hey Naruto. You've come for your blades I assume? Naruto nodded. She went behind the curtain to return with a pair of weapons. Here you are. The metal wasn't as expensive as I remember, only 9,000 for enough to make both blades. She set them down on the counter. Your total will be 18,000. Not as expensive as I would think. Naruto pulled out his wallet and handed over the appropriate bills. Well, since you need to test those out, would you like to spar? Tenten proposed. I suppose it'll give me something to do as well. We're not set to leave until tomorrow. Your team going on a mission? No, vacation. Naruto picked up his blades, examining them. The sword was a chikudo, in essence a straight katana. It had the markings that he'd asked for, the symbol of the brotherhood. The hilt was a simple square hilt, the handle was wrapped in a black cord, while the actual handle was brass covered with red ray skin. The knife was a smaller version of the chikudo, but instead of the brass handle it was made of wood with leather over it. There was only a small, flat cross hilt. Both blades were solid black, reflecting light only on the sharpened edge where the glaze had been ground away. These are perfect. I'd easily pay twice as much for something of this caliber. Naruto said. Tenten smiled at the compliment. I made them myself. Father helped me only with the fittings. Then you're a truly skilled smith, Tenten. Let's hope you're equally good with your blades. The two ninja arrived at a training ground and stood facing each other. Naruto had placed the sword on his belt like his old one, but this one fit the loops that were stitched around the waist of his Chunin vest. His knife was placed across his lower back horizontally. He drew the sword, testing the balance and weight with a few spins in his hand before he fell into his usual stance. Tenten was puzzled, she'd never seen a stance like his before. You have an unusual stance, Namikaze. Tenten unsealed a sword as well, a simple katana with a piece of cotton bandage-like material around the handle. It's highly effective, I assure you. I can evenly match an Abarai, the best of the samurai clans in all countries, with our style. Naruto waited for Tenten to charge, he blocked and parried the downward cut, his counter was a horizontal slash, which she jumped away from. Naruto advanced with a thrust, having his blade knocked aside he used the momentum and went into a low sweep, knocking the Kasumi off balance. He stepped in with a diagonal slash which barely nicked Tenten's shoulder. This time Tenten took the offensive, slashing with both hands. Naruto dodged the slash, and with his palm he struck her in the stomach, knocking her to the ground. As she tried to get up he had his blade pointed at her throat. Dead. He sheathed his blade and helped her up. You're good, Naruto. Tenten sealed the sword away. And you didn't use the extending blade on your arm either, that means I'd likely be dead with the palm strike. Yes, but you're good as well. I have to go, my stuff is still unpacked and I need to pack it. Thank you for your help in the match. Naruto bowed slightly before he left. Back at the house Naruto changed into his cloak and other gear. The reason was because if he didn't then his team would be killed a mile out, but with his cloak, he could show that he was one of the Brotherhood, and when he showed them the letter from Altair, that would allow them access to the city. They would be escorted to the head assassin's office where they would learn the conditions of their stay. Naruto knew they would likely have some sort of mind-altering used on them, except for him because he bore the mark of the assassins, the tattoo on the back of his head. All his gear packed, Naruto spent the rest of the day training. When he woke up the next day Naruto dressed in his assassin cloak, putting his new weapons where his old ones would be. He would also have to present the code in Arabic, an incredibly difficult language to speak for an untrained tongue. The final test would be that Naruto would have to go and present his sword to Altair, one that had special markings on the hilt and handle to identify the user. If he failed to present even one of these he and all of Team 7 would be killed immediately. Massif would also then be well within its rights to declare war on Konoha, they had the manpower and skill to win it too. He put his pack over his shoulders and went to meet Sasuke downstairs before meeting his team at the north gate. You decided to go back to the cloak. I think it looks cooler than the vest. Sasuke smirked, his usual facial expression. You'll understand why when we get to Massif. Naruto pulled his hood up over his eight which was still worn as a bandana. They set off to meet everyone. They arrived to see Kakashi already there. Naruto had warned him that if he was late to meet them that he would burn every single shred of his perverted literature and then tell Tsunade that Kakashi had become a peeping Tom like Jiraiya. Kakashi made sure to arrive early. They arrived, then Sakura shortly after. They set off shortly after. The 3-day trek from Konoha to the outskirts of the fortress city known as Massif was uneventful, a simple 3-day hike at ninja speeds. When they got within 3 miles of the gates, they passed into a narrow valley, guard towers on each side with a pair of guards in towers. They leveled their crossbows at the team. Brother. You know the laws against outsiders on our grounds. Now present your pass, turn back, or die. One shouted. Naruto reached in one of his pouches and pulled out a letter with Altair's seal. I have a letter from the head assassin Altair Ibn Lahad here in my hand. I ask permission to come show you. The guard nodded. Naruto turned to his team. Stay here and stay still or you'll all die. You can't see them, but just over that hill there, a dozen of our men are posted waiting for orders to attack. Naruto then turned and went to the tower, the guard watching him with a trained eye the whole way. Naruto held up one hand and with the other handed him the letter. After careful examination he nodded and in Arabic shouted to the other guard. Naruto climbed down and instructed his team to follow. Are there posts like this all around? Yeah, there's a valley to the south here, it branches off east, there's the bridge over it, and on the west and north there are mountain passes. Naruto informed them of the area's terrain. After they reached just under a mile they came across another checkpoint, which they passed through in a similar way. When they reached the city wall, all but Naruto gawked at the massive wall. The wall is coated in a solution that wards off chakra, making it impossible to climb, and any ladder tall enough would collapse under its own weight. When they reached the gate, Naruto told them to stay put. He walked up to the guards. Brothers, I've brought these ninjas from Konoha under special permission from Altair. Here is the letter of approval from the head assassin himself. Naruto took the letter out and handed it to him. The guards both looked it over carefully. All guards of the city were trained in detecting counterfeits. The letter was written in Arabic as well, a language which no one in the Gekuni knew outside of himself and the Brotherhood. Show us the mark, present your blade, and the password. Naruto turned around and lowered his hood. It showed the symbol of the assassin, a letter that resembled an equilateral triangle with a lower line missing, a wreath surrounding the bottom, and underneath the wreath was a single curved line. Naruto reached into his pack, pulled out a scroll and unsealed his first sword. He handed it to the guard handle first. In Arabic his name was written across the handle. He was called Naruto here by some who spoke mainly Arabic and had no O sound. Because of this his sword said Uzumaki Naruto instead of his full name. He then accepted his sword, sealed it in the scroll, and put it away. The password brother. One guard said. NHN Osid MN Ojibal.1, the guard smiled and then stepped back to their posts on the sides of the gate. Naruto turned around and motioned for them to follow. A single guard waited to escort them to the head assassin's office. They saw a bustling city, but as they traveled up deeper into the town, they saw more guards and more armed men. The fortress city of Massif was similar in design to Konoha. When they reached the gate-like entrance of the tower, all of them were told that drawing any weapons here was against the rules, except in the fighting ring. Naruto informed them that if they did so they would likely be killed or imprisoned and tortured, then killed. They went up a slope and into the building. The main hall was guarded by 12 men, each flanking the entrance in 2 rows of 6. They went up the stairs that were to the right and all walked into a room that resembled the Hokage's in some ways. Altair sat at this desk, he dismissed the guard and stood to greet his student. Naruto, it's good to see you. I see that you remembered to wear your cloak. A good idea, but I see you have obtained a new weapon. May I see it? You never have to ask Saya. 2, Naruto drew the blade and handed it over. But it's polite to ask Tarba. 3, he looked at Naruto's teammates and smiled. Come Naruto. You have yet to introduce me to your friends. I apologize Saya. You know Hada Kakashi, this is Uchiha Sasuke. Naruto held his hand over to Sasuke, who bowed slightly. Altair also did. He then motions to Sakura. This is Haruno Sakura. She bowed much lower, more the kind to acknowledge powerful figures with much humility. Naruto has told me many great things about you in his letters. I see his words of your beauty are not just tales, and for someone so young, you have much growing to do. Sakura blushed profusely at Altair's words. Naruto blushed slightly, but it was hidden by his cloak. I must show you all to your quarters. And after that we will have dinner so that we can celebrate a first in Massif's history. They were shown to their rooms to drop off their stuff and clean up. About an hour later all of Team 7 was assembled in the main hall. Altair was waiting for them. He then led them to the banquet room where they were seated closest to him, while Altair's generals and best assassins were seated farther down the table. Food ranged from well-prepared steaks to ramen, courtesy of Naruto living here at one time. They ate and talked amongst each other. Sasuke sat next to a general and spoke with him about battle tactics. Altair stood up and silenced the whole group. He then began to speak. Gentlemen and lady, today here in Massif we have experienced a first among the Brotherhood. He motioned for Team 7 to stand up. Here we have 3 ninja from Konoha and one of our own who has become a ninja in the hidden village of Leaves. He is my Tarba, his name is Namikaze Uzumaki Naruto, and because of him we are to form an alliance with Konoha. Many assassins and generals clapped. One however stood, objecting. Side, I mean no disrespect, but what can these ninja do? We have reports in all nations of our brothers killing ninjas of greater numbers. Alakir, I want to know who is the best Tarba in your unit. Altair asked the general. Why, that would be Al-Kahal, of course. Naruto, would you wager this alliance with Konoha on Sasuke's skill with a blade? I would side, Sasuke has no rival in our village, he is better than me with a knife or dagger. Al-Akur, call Al-Kahal to the fighting ring, we will see just what the Konoha ninja can do. Al-Ter led all of the men out to the ring. Sasuke stood inside the ring, his sword in front of him, he was meditating. This ring was a large fenced-in circle. His enemy was close to if not as good as Naruto, so his best bet would be to disarm the boy and attack with his knife while his Sharingan was active. He stood, placing his sword in his belt, he saw his opponent. Al-Kahal was bigger than Naruto, easily outweighing him by 30 pounds. He smirked, his opponent looked confused. They dulled the edges of their blades and began. Sharingan. Sasuke's eyes changed, the bloodline skill of his family now active. He fell into a stance. The assassin smirked and walked towards Sasuke, ignorant of the sword style of samurai and ninja. Sasuke charged chakra into his legs and dashed forward so fast that no one could see him until he was in front of Al-Kahal, his sword already contacting the boy and sending him sprawling. He stood at his full height and assumed a forward stance. Al-Kahal stood up and wiped the blood off his lips. He stepped forward and tried to attack Sasuke, but Sasuke parried his blow and with a thrust, knocked the assassin trainee back. Al-Kahal growled in anger, these ninja were supposed to be weaker than them. Rule 1 of combat, never be too eager to rush your opponent. Sasuke smirked, he assumed his forward stance again. All who saw Sasuke fight knew the difference immediately between the two teens. Sasuke had taken lives, Al-Kahal had not. Ignoring Sasuke, he stepped in again. To Sasuke it seemed like slow motion, but to everyone else it was quite fast. Sasuke blocked the downward blow high and took the other boy's wrist. He pulled his arms back over his shoulders. Al-Kahal dropped his sword. Sasuke followed through and threw the boy with a jujutsu throw. Sasuke kicked the sword away, shearing his knife. Naruto grinned, Sasuke's real skill would shine now. Rule 2, never let your emotions cloud your judgment. Sasuke waited for his knife-wielding opponent to come, but when he didn't stepped forward with the same blinding speed as before and jammed the pommel of the knife into the boy's ribs where Sasuke had struck with the Batojutsu. The boy screamed in pain, but Sasuke kept up the assault, striking at vital points and finally going under one of the boy's thrusts and from behind poisoning his blade and body to slit his throat. You're good, but I have Sharingan. So even the best are slow to me. Sasuke slid the blade across his throat. Dead. He then went to hand Al-Kahal his sword back. You're right, Al-Ter. These ninja are good, this one has obviously had combat experience. Al-Akur admitted his defeat. Naruto congratulated his friend. You've proved yourself in the pit. Al-Kahal is good, but Al-Ramiz may give you a run for your money, perhaps we can arrange it if Syed says so. Naruto looked at Al-Ter. Tomorrow, Al-Ramiz is probably at home with his father, he trained hard today. Sasuke grinned, he would love to fight this Al-Ramiz. He returned to the head assassin's house, it was beginning to get dark and Sasuke wanted to get up early to explore the city. Naruto woke up the next morning and decided he'd go to find his old training partner. Al-Ramiz was bound to be at their old training grounds, which required one to climb a steep hill first. When he topped the hill, he saw Al-Ramiz with Al-Ter, they were training in hand-to-hand combat. Naruto stood and watched as his old training partner fought against his old teacher. When they finished the round, meaning that Al-Ramiz had his face buried in the dirt, Naruto walked over and got the attention of his friends. Naruto. How long have you been back? Al-Ramiz shouted, he was very friendly around the right people. I got here yesterday with my team from Konoha. They're letting ninja in now? Only a few for now. Al-Ter came over to the two teenagers. Though we may be allowing more in. Say Al-Ramiz, how would you like to fight one of them? Al-Ter was referring to Sasuke. Is he a good Naruto? The best of our generation. He matched Al-Kahal no problem, I told him you'd give him a run for his money. What's his name? Uchiha Sasuke. I'll do it. When? Al-Ramiz turned to his teacher. We can go do it now if you'd like. Al-Ter told him. Al-Ramiz nodded, hoping to get a crack at a person Naruto said was strong. When they arrived at the head assassin's mansion, they found Sasuke fighting one of the older assassins and beating him. Sasuke was a force to be reckoned with. Al-Ramiz watched how he handled the katana in his hand, pushing back the assassin man back and then striking when a spot opened in the defense. Eventually the man put a hand up in defeat. Sasuke, you fight like that and you'll be a one-man army. Naruto said as Sasuke smirked and deactivated his Sharingan. Al-Ramiz, this is the one you're fighting. Naruto saw Al-Ramiz visibly pale, but he also grinned insanely. The young assassin trainee was always looking for a challenge. He walked over to the pit and jumped the fence into the pit. He was taller than Sasuke, but he was of a lean build, not heavily built like Al-Kahal, but strong nonetheless. Sasuke sheathed his sword and slid his left foot forward. Naruto began chuckling. Altair asked what was so funny. Sasuke has been reading about the Height Mitsurugi Ryu, a style used by an ancient samurai, and it was said to be the best of the best. One, Naruto had thousands of books on. And what is so important about that style? The move he's about to use now is called a Makakera Ryu no Hirameki-2. It utilizes the speed of the style and an off-sided start and finish in order to give them more power. Also it creates a temporary vacuum, sucking the person sucked in and freezing them in place while the used comes in for a second blow. Naruto watched as Sasuke launched off his left foot and drew the blade. Al-Ramaz managed to get his blade up fast enough, but he couldn't move back as Sasuke came in with a second, more powerful blow. This one he couldn't block and took the full blow, which knocked him back and broke a rib. Al-Ramaz stood and attacked, assaulting Sasuke with a barrage of blows which Sasuke dodged, blocked or parried. The two traded blows, Sasuke getting the most, but Al-Ramaz got a few. Eventually Sasuke drew his knife and attacked. Sasuke ultimately won the battle, but Al-Ramaz had given him a great fight, especially with a broken rib. I've never seen someone so skilled with a blade. And your eyes help, I assume? They do. It allows me to see everything at a slower pace, and due to my speed, I can react faster than they can attack. Sasuke told the assassin trainee how he could fight so well. So Naruto, I have yet to gauge how much you've improved. Let's see it. Altair turned to his former student and they stepped into the ring. Altair drew his sword, the traditional assassin's hand and a half sword, the same style of blade Naruto had before. Naruto drew his Shakudo, his sword of choice, and smirked. He'd get to test it out against someone of real skill. Naruto assumed a neutral forward stance. Altair came in with a thrust, Naruto dodged the thrust and attached to Altair's left and had his blade knocked aside. The Namikaze dropped and with a kick to the calf, he sent Altair off balance. He came in fast and hard, trying to use this to his advantage, but Altair's ability to move away from blades was a bit of a legend itself. Naruto came in with a palm strike, but he was beaten to it as he felt the powerful palm hit him in the chest. He felt his wind leave him, and then his feet left the ground and he landed against the fence of the pit. You're definitely faster than before, Naruto, but you have a lot of improvement. Altair smirked. Naruto got up and gripped his sword tighter, readying himself to attack. When he did, he attacked faster than he'd ever before attacked and came down with more power, causing the older assassin to actually have to block instead of dodge. He then took Altair by the wrist and threw him with an over-the-shoulder throw. Altair rolled to his feet, also dodging a blade that nearly came down upon him. Naruto ducked a blade, but that led him straight into a shin kick to the head. Naruto lost consciousness. Altair picked up the boy and his sword and took them outside the pit. I've never seen Naruto get his ass kicked so badly. Sasuke looked at his teammate. He's taken worse, trust me. But he has improved a great deal. I doubt you could even come close to matching him. Al-Ramaz, I did have a problem keeping up with him at times. Sasuke was surprised to hear that Altair was saying this. He hadn't even seen Naruto use anything other than the sword. Naruto sat up, his head throbbing. I got kicked in the head again, didn't I? Naruto asked. Yeah, how do you know? Sasuke asked. Because only a kick in the head by Sayed has ever knocked me out. Naruto replied. He stood up, sheathed his sword and leaned against the fenced-in pit. You took that full force on the side of the head. I'm surprised you didn't get a concussion. Al-Ramaz said, laughing slightly. I was out for a week when I tried that maneuver. I've always gotten it down against others, though I suppose there's a reason you're the head assassin, Sayed. Naruto looked over at his teacher. It's because Al-Assad saw fit for me to be his successor, but I suppose that's because I've the most field experience out of any of his students. How are things in Konoha? What's the damage after the battle with the other villages? One section of the wall was broken, some of the arena is destroyed, but not too much overall, about 3 million in damage, much less than it could have been. Naruto explained. I see, well if we can do anything here, then just ask. It would be a measure of good faith for the soon-to-be-formed alliance. Altair wanted the alliance to last between the two countries. I'm only moderately informed on the situation, but I'm sure Sasuke would like to learn some of our skills here. Naruto looked at his friend's eyes light up. I'll see to it personally, but remember Naruto, he proved his worth in the pit, the Haruno girl will have to prove hers if she wants to train with us. Altair said sternly to the boy. I'll talk to her, see if she wants to. Naruto turned and went in search of Sakura. He found his other teammate looking through the texts in the library of the head assassin's office, under the close eye of the guards. Naruto nodded to them and walked over to her. Hey. You know you're supposed to be an assassin to look at those. Naruto said, making her jump until she realized who it was. Naruto, you jerk. You scared me. She laughed immediately after. So, Altair says that if you want to come train with the assassins, you've got to prove your worth. He had Sasuke fight the guy from yesterday, Al Kahal. I got knocked out by him today, now it's your turn to prove yourself in the pit. Naruto said. She looked down at the ninja two sitting next to her. I hardly know how to use a sword like Naruto, I couldn't fight one of these assassins here. You fought in war less than a month ago, you've killed with that sword, it's something that doesn't go away, that instinct. Have more confidence in yourself, Sakura. Naruto smiled at the girl. I'll show you something after you fight, it's a great place, you can see the entire city. So I've just got to beat one of them into jutsu. Yeah, no chakra, just steel and body. Naruto explained. Sakura had made up her mind and stood up. She put the books back, not wanting to be rude, and then they went to the pit. Sasuke had already begun training with Altair. Sighed, she's here, give her some ass to kick. Sakura laughed at the comment, something totally unusual from his calm, serious character. I'll have Yuri come up, he's Alrama's new partner. Altair sent his student out to get his other student. After about 15 minutes, Alrama's and another boy came back. So this is the ninja I'm fighting? Yuri asked, looking over the girl in the red. Yeah, I'm the one. Sakura drew her sword and stepped into the pit. Sakura held the sword in a similar style to Naruto, but she stood in a slightly more forward stance. She had her tanto in her left hand, ready to use that as well. Yuri attacked first, Sakura dodged and struck with her knife and sword at the same time. She jumped back when the offensive nature of the attack surprised him. Trying to come in again, she blocked this time with her sword and kicked him in the side of the knee. Yuri decided to try for a palm strike, but Sakura blocked it with the back of her forearm and struck with the pommel of her tanto into his chin. Seeing that Yuri was slower but stronger, she decided to use that to her advantage. When he swung horizontally, she would dodge or block vertically and strike with smaller blows to wear him down. The problem with this, however, was that Sakura had less endurance than her male teammates, so she began wearing down and taking more hits. Finally, Sakura sheathed her knife, deciding to go for a killing blow. When Yuri attacked from the left with a back-edge strike, Sakura blocked holding the sword in both hands and with lightning speed, struck her opponent in the throat with a knife hand strike, causing him to drop his sword. She did the same and took her other hand, planting it firmly into his chin and taking him all the way to the ground with a palm strike to the chin. She felt him try to move and drew her tanto, pressing its dull blade to his throat. Dead. She stood up, sheathing her blade and offering a hand to her beaten opponent. Yuri, however, decided to try and attack, but was stopped when Naruto's arm blade was pointed at his throat, the blonde's other hand on the boy's arm. Careful what you do, Yuri, it might get you killed. Naruto said in the voice that he reserved for people who angered him. Naruto had jumped the fence, extended the blade and disarmed the boy in a flash of movement. Yuri. Altair shouted. I'm ashamed you tried to attack a person who's trying to help you up. Even though she beat you, that is no reason to attempt to attack her. I'd have let Naruto kill you if he hadn't shown such restraint. Altair was silently thanking Naruto that he didn't kill him, however. I apologized to Haruno, I was out of line. Yuri apologized as Naruto backed away. You've proven your worth, all of you. I'll grant you full use of all our training materials. Naruto, you and Kakashi have done well with these two, I'm proud of you. Altair turned as a man ran into the tower yard. Altair. Massif is under attack. The man shouted. Naruto ran with Altair, as an assassin he was to immediately go to the front lines. Stay inside the city, guard the civilians. Naruto told Sasuke and Sakura. But Naruto. Do what I say. Naruto shouted, leaving no room for argument. He turned to Sakura. Sakura, in case I don't come back, I want you to know something. Sakura was about to ask what when Naruto's lips covered hers, and just for a few moments her world stood still. After that he turned around and ran after his master. Sakura stood there for a moment, blushing. Did that actually just happen? Sakura thought and confirmed it by looking at Sasuke, who had a look of utter shock on his face. Let's help the guards get the civilians into the shelters. Sakura said, trying to regain some shred of focus back. They met up with a pair of guards who were splitting up, both ninjas went separate ways with the guards, filing civilians into shelter houses. Sakura and the guard she was with were moving to find more people to move when they were faced by enemies. These are Kirin, they're known for their sword and blade skills, be careful. Sakura said to the guard. Thanks, my name is Saddam1, what is yours? Saddam asked. Sakura, now let's kill these bastards. Sakura drew her sword. Saddam did as well. Sasuke had also encountered Miss Ninja, he informed the guard as well, but the man seemed more of the reserved type. They attacked, Sasuke armed with his families, and struck the guards down quickly. They then went in search of more civilians. Naruto, Altair, and Alrama's were standing on the city wall, looking around at the soldiers. Sighed, these are Miss Ninjas. I encountered one a few months back and are considered strong in sword arts. I'd take them out long range when possible. Naruto informed his master of the threat. Then we'll do that. Al Ramaz. I want you to tell the archers and guards to kill these enemies from the walls, do it quickly. The young man nodded and ran off to give orders. What should we do with Naruto? I'd say find their leader, kill him, but also kill as many of the foot soldiers as possible. These ninja aren't the kind to stop because their leader's dead. Then that's what we'll do. You see the water down there? Altair pointed to the small river that ran through the middle of the city. Yes. We need to cut that off. If these are mist ninja then they likely have water-based arts, making that river their strongest ally, but also their weakness here in this desert-like terrain. Go to the northwest wall and pull down the cutoff hatch, and then kill as many as you can with your long-range skills. What are you going to do? I need to get back to the library and make sure that our texts stay there. Yes, sir. Naruto began running along the top of the wall, firing down at enemies every 50 feet or so. Finally he reached the area where the river led into the city and jumped down. He found the large metal hatch and moved it down over the steel grate that allowed the water in but kept people out. The water stopped flowing into the city and flowed along an open trench that was made just for this purpose. The water inside still flowed and most was out of the city within the hour. Naruto began his next assignment. All of the civilians had been ushered into the shelter with minimal casualties and Sakura was now going about with sword, tento and killing any who dared stand in her way. That continued until she saw a man carrying a large sword. He walked up to her calmly. Now what would a Konoha ninja be doing here in Massif where ninja aren't allowed? The man asked. He was tall and muscular, wearing a sleeveless black shirt, black pants, and had swaths of bandages around his face and neck. I'm not authorized to share that information, now step aside or you'll be killed. Sakura held her sword in front of her. Oh? And I assume you'll be the one to kill me? I'm afraid my manners have failed me, allow me to introduce myself. I am Mamachi Zabuza, Demon of the Mist, one of the 7 shinobi swordsmen of the mist. Zabuza pulled his sword off his back and turned to counter the blade of another ninja. So the copy ninja is here as well. Why are you attacking Massif? Well, that concerns a rumor I've been hearing. This rumor has to do with an alliance between Massif and Konoha. So, being the caring man that I am, I rounded up the Mist 7, or 6 I should say. I heard Kisame was killed by a mere boy. Anyway, so I rounded them and a sizable chunk of the Mist forces and set out here to attack Massif. Can't have you two joining up I'm afraid. Zabuza attacked Kakashi, but had to stop another attacker yet again, this one was Uchiha Sasuke. Naruto had been atop the wall when he saw the clash between his 3 teammates and the man wielding the large cleaver-like sword. He fired arrows into the crowd of ninja, killing them off alongside the other archers of the city, and then ran out of arrows. He looked around, searching for ladders, but found none, so he turned to his next option. He jumped from the wall, falling headlong into a huge cart of straw, jumping out and killing a man from behind, and then another. Finally the Mist ninja realized their men were dying. Furious, a ninja who is also an assassin. You must be where the rumors are stemming from. A man said, carrying 2 short, straight blades. What do you want in Massif? Me? I want to kill, but my good friend Mamachi Zabuza wants to prevent some sort of alliance between Konoha and the assassins. He's going to fail, we outnumber your forces 4-1. This is where we thrive. Outnumbered and outpowered, we will burn this city to the ground. The man was interrupted when a single straight Chikudo came bearing down on him. He put up one blade and knocked it aside, taking the back of the other one under Naruto's wrist. He grabbed the boy's hand and wrenched his sword up and disarmed him. You see boy, I'm one of the 7 shinobi swordsmen of the mist. We're the best swordsmen in the world. We've collaborated on the best swords, the best styles and joined into one group. I use a twin sword style called Kali2 and I'll kill you with these blades. He picked up Naruto's sword and tossed it back to him. Any of you who interfere will be killed. I want to see just how strong this boy is. The ninja said. My name is Tachi Naiban, I thought you should know the name of the one to kill you. Namek is Uzumaki Naruto, I thought you should know who's going to slaughter the Mist Army. Naruto took his sword in his hand and with a lunge was on the man in a second. This time when he tried to counter like last time, Naruto caught the man's hand and kicked his right knee in, breaking it. The ninja screamed in pain, but stood anyway. He tried to attack, but Naruto kicked the same knee, causing a wave of pain. Naruto bore down with his sword, striking again and finally when an opening appeared he took it with his arm blade and killed the man. Naruto then realized he was surrounded by mist ninjas. He made several dozen clones very quickly and fought them off. Sasuke, Sakura and Kakashi were having a hard time fighting off Zabuza, the man was too fast with that large blade. Suddenly an arrow came down from a building, striking the demon of the mist in the left shoulder. I thought you could use some help. Naruto stood on the roof of a building holding his crossbow and had more arrows from a fallen comrade. You little bastard. I'll kill you. Zabuza screamed. That's what that Niban guy said before I killed him. Zabuza's face was a mask of surprise. You killed Tachi Niban? Impossible. No, I can show you where it happened if you want, but I can't have you harming my precious people. Naruto jumped down, drawing his sword. I can take this guy, Sakura, I'll tear to the library and go help him, he needs it. Both nodded. Kakashi, you stay here in case I'm in over my head. Naruto dashed forward, his sword clashing with a bigger man's sword, he drew his knife and slashed the quadrilaterals of the larger man's left leg, disabling him. So, you used underhanded tactics like this? That is why you were able to kill him. Very well, I'll fight you until I am killed or bleed out. Zabuza punched Naruto away, setting his sword over his shoulder, he jumped off his right leg, slower than normal, but still quite fast, and attacked. Naruto could barely fend off the massive blade and had to use both hands, but did it anyway. Naruto tried the same tactic of kicking the wounded leg, but Zabuza stood anyway, his adrenaline preventing him from feeling the pain. Naruto jumped away before the knife and Zabuza's offhand nearly impaled him, but then had to block the large sword, this time his strength gave way and Naruto suffered a cut across his left arm. Naruto removed a piece of bandage from his pouch. If you want to wrap yourself up, then do it, at least allow me to. So be it. Zabuza cut away some of the bandage wrapped around his neck and wrapped it around his leg. When he tied it off, he then looked to Naruto who had also tied off his injury and held his sword up, ready. Zabuza took the offensive this time, Naruto ducked the massive blade, took the knee to his chin, all in order to plant the arm blade into Zabuza's side, driving it between two ribs. I'm sorry Zabuza, but you're too good of a swordsman for me to fight fair. That's okay kid, it'll keep you alive, fighting like that. Zabuza said that as he collapsed dead. Naruto said a prayer in Arabic, one taught among the assassins to a god called Allah. Then Naruto and Kakashi set off, heading towards the central tower of the city. When they arrived, they rushed immediately into the fray, killing the mist ninja that were fighting to gain entrance. A man carrying a katana attacked Kakashi, who blocked with a sword he'd picked up off a dead mist ninja. The copy ninja, a truly great opportunity. The man pushed off with his katana, stepping back. Allow me to introduce myself, I am Michirama Kojima, one of the 7 shinobi swordsmen of the mist. To the tower Naruto, I want to take this one. Kakashi unsheathed the ninja too, assuming a stance. So the copy nin will be fighting solo. Okay then, I'll make it quick and kill your friend. Kojima sheathed his blade, turned it down and assumed a modified stance. Kakashi charged, stepping left at the last second to avoid the blade and with his momentum elbowed the man in the ribs. Kojima brought his blade down, but Kakashi dodged again and struck again with another body blow, backing out again. Sit still you damned rat. Kojima shouted, swinging his blade, trying to hit Kakashi, who kept up his hit and run tactics. Finally Kakashi blocked the blade, taking Kojima by the wrist and jammed the ninja too deep into his chest and out his back, killing the man instantly. 3 down, 3 to go. Kakashi was unaware of the events that were transpiring inside the tower. Altair was facing a truly unusual sight for his people. A female swordsman, he had encountered her inside the tower when he'd arrived, striking down soldiers. So, another has come to challenge me. She said. Why have you people come? As a whole, we came to stop the rumored alliance, our explosive specialists got through your wall pretty easily. As one of the 7 swordsmen, I came to kill. She giggled, my name is Mitsuru Yuki and I've come here to kill you. She looked at the assassin curiously. And what may I call my next victim? Altair ibn Lahad. Though you will be calling me death dealer by the end of this, not victim. Altair drew his sword. The sword Yuki was using was a Chinese gim, a long double-edged straight sword. She attacked with efficient strokes, but Altair was much older and more experienced, for she couldn't have been more than 25. Altair dodged each stroke of the blade easily, but was knocked back by an unexpected palm strike and had to block a backstroke. Altair attacked, knocking the sword aside, only to have it flow into an attack which he narrowly dodged. Yuki finally tried for a thrust, Altair caught the blade between his side and arm, his much bigger and more powerful frame resisted any attempts of Yuki to retrieve the blade. Any last words Mitsuda Yuki? Altair asked, raising his arm blades. Surprise. Yuki pulled a small push dagger from her wristband, but was not fast enough to use it, Altair struck with a killing blow, putting his blade through her throat. So that makes it 4 down. Kakashi said as he saw the woman fall. Reports indicate that most of the offensive force retreated or died trying when they realized the river had been cut off. A man had come in and told him earlier of the situation. Who killed the other 3? Altair asked. Naruto killed 2, Tachi Niban and Mamachi Zabuza. I killed 1, Michirama Kojima. Kakashi said, knowing the value this information would have. Just then 3 men came in, 2 archers and a guard. Sir. They're retreating. The death of the seven swordsmen has caused them to lose morale. Naruto smiled, it was inevitable that if he and Kakashi could kill 3, then the assassins could kill 2. It seems we've won this battle, you guys played a big part. Altair congratulated them all. With the help of many hundreds of Naruto's clones, the hole in the wall was sealed up only until the supplies could be gathered to repair it permanently. The many assassins who doubted the ninja's prowess in combat did no such thing now, as word of every one of the 4 ninja killing at least 50 enemy ninjas spread. Team 7 now stood in front of the banquet of generals as it was called. Naruto with his hood down, he'd chosen to wear his traditional garb inside the city, since very few would recognize him as an assassin otherwise. Namikaze Uzumaki Naruto, for your courage and fighting ability in the battle today, we award you a Medal of Honor. Altair hung the medal around Naruto's neck. Thank you sire. Naruto bowed. He came upon Sakura. Baruno Sakura, for fighting our battle, saving the lives of countless citizens, and showing the skill you did, we award you the title of Honorary Assassin. Altair took her right hand, and with muttered words of Arabic, the seal of the assassin appeared on the back of her hand. Thank you sire. Sakura thought it appropriate to call him by the Arabic term, as she was now going to be treated as an assassin. Uchiha Sasuke, for showing courage, fighting when you could have run, and displaying skill of both sword and knife, we award you the title of Honorary Assassin. Altair also placed the seal of the assassin on his hand. Thank you sire. Sasuke followed the suit of his 2 teammates. Ada Kakashi, you've proven your worth to me before, and now you've fought for my nation. For this, we award you the title of Honorary Assassin. Kakashi removed his glove and accepted the seal. Thanks, Altair. Say, next time we should play who's the better killer. What do you say? Altair laughed. We'll see. You all have full access to all our texts and training methods. You must also, however, accept the code of our brotherhood. First, you never compromise the brotherhood. Second, hide in plain sight to mask your intent, and third, your blade must never touch the flesh of an innocent. Altair explained. The generals and lead assassins all cheered. Sakura, I have somewhere I want to show you. Naruto turned to Sakura. He looked to Altair, who nodded. Come on. He led her. Sakura followed, unsure of what to expect. Suddenly they came to a massive cliff. I hope you're not too tired for a little rock climbing. Naruto started up the wall, Sakura followed behind him. They reached the top of the plateau, where Naruto used to train. The sun was setting. This place is beautiful. Sakura said, almost coming to tears at the sight of the valley below, the forests on one side, and the fading sunlight dancing over it all. I thought you might like it Sakura. This is something I've wanted to show you for a long time. Naruto paused. For a while now, I've been having these feelings, and to make the long story short, Sakura, I'm falling in love with you. Naruto saw the tears that were once threatening to fall come full force now. Sakura said nothing, but instead embraced Naruto and gave him a passionate kiss. Weeks had passed since the failed attack on Massif, word had quickly spread of the battle. The word of it had reached Tsunade's ears far south in Konoha, the word of how 4 ninja from Konoha helped defeat the Mist Force, killing half of the 7 swordsmen in the process. She had also learned that because of this, Massif wanted to begin an alliance between Konoha, reaching out to the ninja world in a way that was never heard of before. Naruto was currently walking through the city, looking for somewhere to eat. He ended up stopping at a place that he remembered served really good pancakes. He ordered a massive stack and ate in silence, ignoring the looks of all of the surrounding people. Excuse me, but are you Uzumaki Naruto? A young girl walked up, no older than 10. Yes I am. You saved my daddy in that battle 2 weeks ago. The girl bowed low before turning around and running over to the man he assumed was her father. He shrugged and went back to his pancakes. When he finished he paid and left, searching for Sasuke to spar a little. He had failed to find his first option for a training partner, but did find Sakura. Hey Sakura. He had found her in the library yet again. She stood up and hugged him. Hey Naruto, how are you? Good, I had some pancakes for breakfast and a good walk. He turned his head to the window. People are treating us like heroes here, I only got charged half price for my breakfast. I had 15 large pancakes. We are heroes here Naruto, we saved thousands of lives. Especially you and Kakashi who killed some of the Mist Swordsmen. Sakura was surprised to see Naruto was nearly on par with Kakashi. His power was growing fast. So, you want to go do some training? Naruto asked. Sure, let me put these back. She pointed at the stack of books. They were back atop the plateau, facing each other with swords drawn. Naruto made the first move, an upward slash, Sakura parried it expertly, he could see the difference that combat had made. Her movements were tighter, less hesitant and stronger. They continued their sparring for nearly half an hour before Naruto decided to up his game and as he blocked the blade, stepped in and took her by the wrist. Sakura felt the wrist lock being applied and whipped her fist into Naruto's ribs. Naruto felt it, the blow staggered him. That was powerful. Naruto had obviously taken harder, but it was a hard blow. Naruto decided he wanted to do hand-to-hand, so he sheathed his sword and put his hands up. Sakura got the clue, she moved in to make a kick to Naruto's head. Only Altair can succeed with that one. And maybe Kakashi. Naruto ducked and kicked her leg, knocking it out. He took her other leg and pushed her up, knocking her on her back. When she stood up, she assumed a fighting stance again, but it was different. She had her arms farther up, guarding her face, her elbows were tucked in, and her chin was kept in closer than normal to her body. The peculiar stance there. It's from an older style called boxing. I can't kick as hard or fast as you or Sasuke, but I can definitely punch hard. Sakura came for a straight punch with her right hand. You didn't think I was looking at cookbooks all day, did you? She laughed. Naruto dodged the fist, but then she jabbed with her left, hitting him solidly in the jaw. He'd never had any extensive hand-to-hand sparring with her, so he never really knew how hard she could punch. Naruto was continually assaulted by a barrage of strong and fast punches. He blocked or dodged most, until finally one uppercut hit him right on the point of the chin. He then felt another on his left temple, and then darkness. Sakura panicked, she saw Naruto hit the ground and was worried she'd hit him too hard. She picked up his head and slapped his cheek softly, trying to get a reaction. Naruto. Wake up. She said, worried. Naruto groaned, shaking his head. What hit me? He asked. I did. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to hit you so hard, you idiot, you're supposed to defend yourself. She hugged him. That makes you the first person other than Altair to knock me out. Naruto sat up, shaking his head. It's true what they say, you never see the one that knocks you out. He stood up. I think that's enough sparring today. Naruto cracked his neck, rubbing his chin. Suddenly a thought occurred to him. Sakura, what exactly are we to each other? What do you mean? I mean ever since the night of the invasion, we've known each other's feelings, but we never really acted on them. Oh, he don't know though. I mean I had assumed it would go without saying, but I guess it's up to you. Okay then. Sakura, I want to be your boyfriend. Will you be my girlfriend? Sakura blushed, she'd known he was blunt, but this was still unexpected. She just nodded and kissed him. Well, this is certainly a development. The voice of Kakashi came. Both jumped and looked at the older man. I hope you didn't come all this way to just kiss. Kakashi said. No, we were training. Naruto rubbed his chin again. Looks like she slugged you good. Kakashi noted the forming bruise on his chin. Boxing hurts. Naruto muttered. Kakashi looked at his student. So, you didn't come up here to do anything bad. You're one to talk to Kakashi, you and Anko. Don't think I don't know what you were doing. Kakashi's single visible eye shot open. What? Sakura yelled. Looking at her teacher. What I do in the privacy of my house is none of your concern. Kakashi said in a matter-of-factly tone. Make sure she's dressed before she answers then. Sakura heard that and walked up to her teacher. Attic, she cracked her knuckles. You pervert. She yelled as she punched him in the face in a very Tsunade-like manner. Little did Naruto know, Sakura was hoping to be trained by that very woman. You didn't have to punch him. Naruto rubbed the back of his head. But he's going around and doing that with other ninjas and not even telling her to dress before she answers the door. In her defense, she did have a blanket covering her. Naruto looked over the cliff to see an unconscious Kakashi lying in a heap at the bottom. That was a good hit though. Naruto said to himself. I suppose it was a little over the top. She shrugged. What's done can't be undone. Let's go tell Altair that someone has managed what only he's accomplished before and that you knocked Kakashi out. Naruto laughed. They jumped from the cliff, landing at the bottom. They made it into a race to the tower. Good, I was just going to look for you. Altair was at the entrance to the tower garden. Sakura got into the library and learned how to box. Naruto pointed to the bruise on his chin. She's got a mean uppercut. Knocked me out. Kakashi too. Would you knock out Kakashi? He's a pervert. Sakura said, scowling. Yeah, he is. He's been reading that damn Icha series since he was 16. Altair said. I suppose even the best warriors have vices. But he reads it so much. Yeah, but I suppose it's better than having an alcoholic Kakashi. That man is mean when he's drunk. Altair remembered a time when they were drinking together and it had resulted in Kakashi trying to fight him and falling down some stairs. I can imagine, I've seen some mean drunks and Kakashi is definitely strong enough to be one. Anyway, Naruto, I've got the terms of the alliance written up. Since you guys are going to be leaving in 2 days, I wanted to have you look it over, see if there's anything that's missing. Altair had him come into the office. Sakura followed along, marveling at the birds, the books and the weapons that were all sitting in the office. On the desk was a picture of Al-Assad, the Fourth, and Kakashi. Naruto looked over the alliance, it read. The alliance between Konoha is to be as follows. No ninja of the Land of Fire or any assassin of Massif, under any condition, make any ill-intentioned attack on any of the opposing party, they shall only do combat for the betterment or comparison of skill of each other. Ninja from the Konohagakure no Sado shall periodically be sent to Massif to confirm the well-being of the city, and the assassins of Massif shall periodically be sent to Konohagakure no Sado in order to confirm the well-being of the village. Ninja and assassin will be sent on missions with each other and will receive pay equal to that of a ninja or assassin would receive for the mission they are sent on. Ninjas are allowed to access all texts and files classified up to A class, and assassins are allowed access to all texts and files up to A class. Both nations are required to participate in any wars in which the assistance of the other is asked. The alliance will last until one of three things happen. The first would be until one of the nations falls. The second would be that the leader of either nation deems the leader of the other unfit to lead, and thus the alliance will be ended. The third is if the ninja of Konohagakure no Sado or the assassins of Massif show any ill will to any of the other party. The alliance requires the signature of both leaders. Alter ibn Lahad. Signed. Naruto read over it twice and a third time and finally rolled it back up. It looks good, seems like you covered most things an alliance should cover. I'll take this back to Tsunade if this is the copy to be sent. I'll have to write up another one so both nations have a copy. Altair accepted the paper. Okay, I'm going to go and gather my stuff up to make ready for departure in 2 days. Naruto then went to his room, it was 4 o'clock by this time and dinner was in 2 hours. Naruto was in his room when he heard a knock at the door. It's open. Sakura walked in, looking over the room, it was just like hers. Naruto, do you ever have nightmares? After doing the things we've done, do you see their faces? I do, and I hate it. I do as well, it's something that never goes away, but you never get used to it either. Do you think I could stay here for the last 2 days? That way if one of us has a nightmare, the other is here to bring comfort. Naruto turned around, walking over to the girl. I wouldn't mind it. You know my birthday is coming up soon. 3 months away. You were born in October. That makes me nearly a whole 7 months older than you. Sakura looked up at the assassin. I guess that's just how it is. I look older though. He pulled his aide off his head. I was thinking about growing my hair out, you know, like my dad. Naruto knew she'd never really seen Minato face to face, but she'd seen his face on the Hokage mountain. Naruto had only seen pictures in the house and the one on Altair's desk. I think it would look good. Just promise me you won't grow it too long. I don't want it too long, just long enough that I have some hair. Naruto rubbed his scalp feeling the stubble of his growing hair. It shouldn't take too long. Naruto smiled. They spent the rest of the day wandering the town looking for Sasuke. 2 days later. Team 7 left Massif after breakfast, allowing them substantial travel time on the first day. They said their goodbyes and finally set off. Travel was slightly faster due to the amount of training that had happened during their stay. When they made camp for the first day they made a simple campfire and set the 3 tents around the site. It looks like it's going to rain, Naruto, you can't just sleep outside like you usually do. Sakura looked up at the clouds. Kakashi and Sasuke were both looking for water. I'll make a shelter. Naruto was about to make some clones to gather supplies. I was offering to let you stay in my tent tonight. Naruto looked at her. I'm fine with the shelter. You're my boyfriend now, Naruto, you're allowed to share a tent with me. Just so long as you don't try anything. Haruno pointed an accusing finger at him. I won't. But do you think that Kakashi and Sasuke will wonder what's up? That's their problem. Naruto heard a sound and held up his hand. Slowly he drew his crossbow. Firing in the direction of the noise he heard nothing. Then someone came from the trees nearby. Hi, I'm Arasawa Totsuki and I'm going to have to ask you to come with me. She wore a black cloak with red cloud. Naruto woke up on a cold hard floor, Sakura was huddled next to him. He remembered now what had happened. He'd been captured by the Akatsuki. Hi, I'm Arasawa Totsuki and I need you to come with me. The woman looked much like many other ninja, dark hair and fair skin, she also had the insane grin many of them wore. Sorry, but I'm waiting for someone. Naruto said, that's when she flew into action. Naruto blocked the first kick but was surprised at the next move. Itsuki jumped and kicked Naruto in the head with her other foot. Staggering back he said to Sakura. Don't get involved here. Naruto drew his knife, each stroke was dodged expertly, a quick strike came after each dodge. What style is this? It's called Mushin no Shinryu Kempo. Totsuki kicked him in the body, taking his wind from him. Then his world faded to black. Then he woke up here, dressed only in his black pants, boots and undershirt, a simple black tank that hugged his body closely. They'd taken all his weapons and tools as well. He woke up Sakura, she'd lost all her weaponry as well, but she needed none of it, she had her fists. We need to find my sword and escape. Naruto was sitting in a meditative position. He opened his eyes and then said. I know where it is, our gear is likely there too. Naruto then focused on chakra, said words in Arabic, and had a knife. I remember you told me about that, the last-ditch knife. It was a simple knife, a straight blade with a spear point, a black handle and a black blade, it was about 10 inches overall. We need to be quick and kill anyone we see, if they get in the way, we need to take them out. Naruto looked for the hinges, but found the door open outward, and the hinges were outside the cell, a smart choice for a cell-holding ninja. They heard keys outside the door, and the door began opening. Naruto stood, ready to kill the person who came through. What he saw totally surprised him. Come on, we need to get you out of here, my brother is waiting a few kilometers off. Itachi was standing there with their stuff. They took it quickly, and Naruto took his sword. Hawk, why are you helping us? I'll explain later, for now we have to move. Itachi turned around and they made off. They ran through the complex, they noticed no guards, as Itachi explained that he'd faked an attack on the opposite side of the complex, and all the guards were drawn that way, even the main members were sent that way. They went to exit the complex but were stopped by a familiar face. You know Pain's not gonna like that you're playing double agent here. Totsuki smiled. But I was never much one for ratting others out, so if you can make it past me I'll let you go. Totsuki took no stance, just stood, hands at her waist level, feet slightly less than shoulder width apart. Naruto drew his sword and knife, Sakura took her boxing stance, and Itachi produced his Anbu sword from somewhere. Totsuki smirked and then took a deep breath, letting it out. Come. Itachi was the first, he came straight on and then made a quick move to try and flank her, but was met with the back of her wrist, her hand bent like scythe. The blow struck Itachi's throat, knocking him back and damaging his windpipe. Naruto was more careful, he then noticed that her stance had gone back to her resting stance, the shift from one to another had created massive force. He approached forward, and when he saw the slightest move he shifted only to see her catch his sword arm and slam a ridge hand into the back of his neck. Sakura rushed forward as Naruto hit the ground, her fist dodged as the woman seemed to disappear, the hammer fist into her temple knocked her into unconsciousness. You people are pathetic, anyone who has ever fought a Kempo master would know that you can't match force with force. You'll never beat me. It was then that she fell to one side, feeling the sharp pain in her left ankle. Naruto stood up, he was holding his knife, her blood dripping from the blade. You should have knocked me out like Sakura, you would have beaten us then. I cut your Achilles tendon, you'll not be walking for a while, Itachi, can you breathe? I'm fine now. Itachi put his sword away, picked up Sakura and they made off. What is that woman? She'd make even the best martial artists seem like uncoordinated children. Naruto asked. That is Arasawa Totsuki, she practices Mushin no Shinryu Kempo, the idea of the style is to impose change on your enemy with movement, not force. Itachi was carrying Sakura on his back. I see, like a boulder in a river. Exactly, they teach you not only how to move, but when. Itachi seemed to have a specific place in mind to run to. They ran, turning and twisting when they came to a stop at what looked to be a cliff, Sakura began to come to about then. We need to get up, and fast. Itachi focused his chakra and began running up the wall, Sakura did as well, Naruto had learned of this practice, but was somewhat unfamiliar, he did it anyway, taking steps more carefully than his escapees. When they got to the top of the cliff, Itachi was making hand seals. Earth style. Art of the hidden entrance. The hole began forming in the wall, and it showed a deep cavern. You Akatsuki and your tricks. Naruto said, Itachi looked at him. This is my secret, none of the others know of it, I've spent years digging these. Itachi entered, pulling a length of cloth from his robe and producing the wakizashi yet again. He wrapped the cloth around the blade and set it ablaze. That's terrible for the temper you know. If you're dealing with a regular sword, Anbu swords like this are forged with things like this in mind. Itachi handed the blade to Naruto as he closed the entrance and they began traversing the tunnels. Okay, now tell me why you're helping us escape. Because I'm not the Itachi you think I am. Explain. I was doing a service to Konoha by murdering my clan. Itachi went on to explain that the Uchiha clan had begun plotting a coup and was going to take over Konoha. Itachi was a spy for the third Hokage, going to Uchiha council meetings and then reporting to the Hokage. When he learned of the coup he got permission to stop it by any means necessary. Then you left your brother alive because you wanted him to take your life for your sins, you wanted him to come after you, but when I changed things, your plan was ruined. Naruto had pieced it together. Yes, and I begged the Hokage to protect Sasuke, he didn't need to be involved and it was covered up. Just like that. Would you come home, if you could? I would give anything to return home, I've been away far too long. Itachi seemed totally different from the cold, precise ninja Naruto had seen in the field. Then come back with us, we can get you new clothes on the way back, disguise you until we're safely in the Hokage's office, and discuss your reintegration into the village. Naruto explained. I'm in your debt, Naruto. The Brotherhood taught us that anyone who isn't our target is a potential friend, make friends with favors, give them out willingly, and you could have them returned later when you may need them. You've saved my life and Sakura's, and this is what I'm giving you back. Sakura just drank it all in. She was in Konoha when the massacre happened. She'd been given the typical cover-up story that Itachi was utterly insane and that was why he did it. This was all new information. Suddenly the cramped tunnel became an opening to a cavern. Itachi moved his sword to the right and lit a torch which illuminated the entire cavern. Inside were a myriad of boxes and supplies, another entrance on the opposing side of the room. "We're better for the wolf to hide," Itachi began, then a familiar voice answered. Then the den of his prey. Kakashi and Sasuke walked out into the room from the opposing tunnel. "You said you were going to explain yourself, brother," Sasuke said, looking at his brother with hatred burning in his eyes. Itachi sighed and then began explaining the things that had happened on that fateful night and the events leading up to it. Sasuke was sitting on a large box, taking it all in. "So you now see the pain I've been in. I wanted you to take my life then, but now I want nothing more than to redeem myself. You killed nearly 50 ninja that night," Sasuke said, his voice sounded emotionless, but he also had an underlying tone of sadness. "But if Naruto has already said he's going to help you back into the village, then I think in time I can forgive you." Sasuke hopped off the box and they looked about the room. It was about 20 feet in diameter, a huge steel plate was the roof, several beams were holding it up, all made of thick cinder blocks like the walls, the floor was hard-packed dirt. They spent the night in the underground supply room, each keeping watch for an hour and a half, except the last person, Sasuke, who only watched for an hour. They woke and continued through the tunnels, traveling a full day's distance underground. Itachi inquired Sasuke about the goggles he was wearing over his eight. It was then that Sasuke recounted how he'd made his eyes the way they were. He now called it eye shine. "It sucks during the day when it's bright out, but for stuff like this it's good." Sasuke's eyes were glowing red Sharingan, like blood when the moonlight reflected off the thick red plasma. "I see, you are aware that Sharingan allows you to see in the dark as it is. I wasn't at the time, but now I am, but it's stuck like this until a further time. Turn left here, this is our stop." Itachi directed them to the wall and used his to allow them out into the open air. Sasuke had replaced his goggles beforehand and they were now somewhere vaguely familiar, a forest outside the Konoha gate. They disguised Itachi as an assassin with Naruto's cloak and sword, which fit him well enough as Naruto wore his cloak large enough that it fit Itachi snug. They passed by the guards into the city without a problem and made it straight to Tsunade's office. "So you've brought an assassin back?" Tsunade asked. "Not quite. Before this happens, you have to listen very carefully and maybe ask those advisors of yours, they might help you." Naruto turned to Itachi and nodded. Itachi pulled off the hood of the white canvas cloak. "Why did you bring a murderer here, Naruto?" It was then that Itachi began explaining his reasons for the massacre. At first she didn't believe him, but when Homura and Danzo were brought in and said it was the truth, both looked over the ninja in front of them. "It seems you've done well for yourself, Itachi. Would you want to be reinstated as Anbu captain?" Danzo asked. He could pull some strings among the main group of the special operations groups. "Not now, I want the people to regain my trust, give time for word to spread about the truth of the massacre." Itachi was sure Tsunade would let the word spread, people would go AWOL if a mass murderer was walking the streets, reinstated, but if it were a man who was wiping out a clan bent on the destruction of the village, he would be seen in a different light. Sasuke was a happy albeit confused person, he now had someone to help replenish the clan, but things would have to be much different, the new clan would be raised differently. Confusion was a given, he was now going to be living with someone he had spent the past 5 years hating. "Sasuke, let's not stay at the compound, I don't think I can bear it yet," Itachi said and they changed directions to Naruto's house. When they arrived they found Naruto training in his usual way. "We have another guest, I hope you don't mind." "Nonsense, Itachi saved my ass, the least I could do is let him live here, stay as long as you want." Naruto then returned to his training. Itachi simply took his things up to the room he'd picked out. Jiraiya arrived at the house and found Naruto still training. "Hey Naruto, I think it's time you were sent out to train the Namikaze way," Jiraiya said. Naruto raised an eyebrow, looking at him. "What do you mean?" "You and I are going to spend some time in the mountains where Minato trained for 3 years. He's got a cabin with all his training methods sealed away and it's time for you to learn them." Jiraiya smiled. "Pack your stuff, we're going camping." Had anyone asked the birds, foxes and other animals about anything strange, they would have been told about 2 people in black cloak running through the woods, running so fast that they were barely noticed before they were gone again. Konoha had spent 3 years flourishing, 3 years sending shinobi to Massif and receiving assassins, 3 years spent in absence of their current hero. Namikaze Uzumaki Naruto. Currently one Haruno Sakura was sitting in the Hokage's office, they'd gotten a rather strange message that day. Expect a bang. We'll be dropping in. Was all it said. They had all Anbu and assassins on guard, Jounin and Chunin were also on a sort of relaxed guard so as not to alert the general populace. Currently the two cloaked men were kneeling hidden on a mountain above the village. Between them was a mortar. Alright, let's get things going. One said. The two men light the fuses. Tsunade heard the bang. Then the second. Then a third, and finally a fourth. They nodded to each other and took off towards the cliffs. They launched themselves off. Anbu and assassins alike saw this, and they also realized that the explosions were fireworks. The bang was heard on the top of Hokage Tower. Anbu, Assassin, Tsunade, Shizune and Sakura rushed to the top of the tower. The first people who got there were beaten senseless before they knew what happened. Swords were knocked away, blades and arrows deflected, and fighters dropped unconscious on the rooftop. Sakura saw the two invaders, she saw the gloved hands of one of them, she saw the blade running along the left arm of both. Naruto. Sasuke. She shouted. At once everyone stopped fighting. They let their hoods drop. Hey guys. Naruto grinned. Sasuke shrugged. It was his idea. He immediately pointed the finger at Naruto. Then it was you who sent the message. Yeah, it was to test us, I knew you'd have security tight. So as I was coming back I made a side trip to go pick him up. They've made him a full-blown assassin. Sasuke had been training with the assassins in Massif, Naruto was training alone at his father's mountain training land. Sakura had stayed here and trained with Tsunade, also learning from the documents Naruto had left her. You're an idiot Naruto. Sakura said, walking over to him and hugging him. Welcome back. Well, let's go get some lunch, that operation wasn't easy. Naruto had changed quite a bit in his 3-year absence. Lunch with Team 7 was a strange event, Sakura asked tons of questions, all of which directed at Naruto were redirected toward Sasuke or totally avoided. So why aren't you telling us anything about your training Naruto? Sasuke asked. Because I want to show you. Let's go to the training field. Find Kakashi first, we can make it a 2-on-2 battle. They finished lunch and then went in search of the Cyclops. There they stood on the field, the whole of Team 7 facing each other in a circle. We can do this tag team or we can do it normally. Kakashi said. I say we go for tag team, mix it up. Naruto said. Fine, then you're going first. Sasuke smirked. Good. More for me. Sakura, I choose you to be my opponent. Naruto shrugged out of his cloak, revealing a black guy. Sakura put on a pair of black leather gloves. Cool, then I get to show you some of my new moves. I have some new tricks. Sakura took a stance, almost like a boxing stance, but it was different, her feet were slightly farther apart, her hands were open, and her rear shoulder was farther back. Naruto rolled his shoulders and removed his gauntlets, which now had metal knuckle caps and plates over the proximal phalanges, and the bone between your first and second knuckles. He also removed his boots which were now steel-toed and had metal plates over the tops of his feet and shins. You're looking to do some damage, aren't you Naruto? Sakura said, looking at the boots and gauntlets. The point of assassins is to kill. If I can cripple them, then it makes it easier. Naruto assumed a similar stance. Sakura took the initiative, stepping in and trying for a roundhouse to the ribs. Naruto stepped into it, catching her hip, he knocked her away with a punch to her stomach. The next attack was by Naruto, a punch which was redirected across his body led into an elbow, this landed across Sakura's left cheek, knocking her to the ground. Sakura rolled out of the way of the axe kick that came down, and as she stood attacked Naruto's shin with her own, a powerful shin kick took the leg from beneath him, she used this to take him down, and continued raining blows down with her fists and elbows. Naruto guarded his face and chest with his arms, Sakura had placed herself in a bad position, she was between his legs which set him up for his next attack. He pushed his arms forward, leaning up, he took her shoulders and pulled her down, he pulled his leg up and over her back, allowing her left shoulder under his leg, her right was now across her neck, his leg was behind her neck, and his left was applying a downward pressure on her throat. Naruto was choking her with her own arm, he positioned himself so that she could generate no power with her left and couldn't lift him up or roll him out of the position. As she felt her air and blood being choked off she tapped her left repeatedly against his leg, signaling surrender. Naruto, where did you learn that? Kakashi asked, he'd ever seen anything like that. My dad had a great deal of knowledge on ancient martial arts, what you saw was a triangle choke from Jujutsu. Naruto said. Alright, I want to play some. Sasuke said, signaling Kakashi to spar with him. Sakura accepted Naruto's offer for help. You've been doing strength training. Naruto had noticed when he ate the shin kick that took his balance from him. Yeah, Tsunade said that since I don't have the chakra stores you guys do, if I work on physical endurance and strength, then I can focus on my taijutsu. I've been spending a lot of time training with Lee and Guy sensei. I see, you learned some mixed arts. I'll teach you some jujutsu and some muay thai, you like them. Now let's watch. Naruto pointed to the other teammates. Sasuke pulled out a scroll and unsealed a pair of black sticks. He settled in a stance with one stick in front of him, facing up and his rear stick resting diagonally across his center. Kakashi examined the stance and pulled out his own training weapon, a single wooden kodachi. "On back to using a sword, sensei?" Sasuke smirked. Kakashi held the sword in front of him. Heitan Kenbu, first dance. He was gone, and in a moment he was upon his student who blocked the first and second whirling blows, but the third struck him across the chest. Sasuke lashed out with the first stick, it was blocked by Kakashi's sword, but Sasuke followed up with a second, striking the back of his own, forcing Kakashi into a defensive stance. Sasuke shifted his stick with his wrist so that it was below the sword and he pushed up, leaving his teacher's solar plexus open. He smashed the butt of the stick into the open ribs. Kakashi knew he'd have to take the offensive, he kicked low, causing Sasuke to step back to avoid it. He stepped in and forced the Uchiha's defense with a flurry of blows from all angles. He switched to a reverse grip, moving close in and pushing Sasuke's right arm aside as he blocked the blow. This left his back open for Haddock's left hand to strike down. Sasuke ate dirt as the blow fell. Kakashi took the opportunity to relieve Sasuke of his sticks, tossing them aside. The student stood, putting his hands in front of his face, palms outward. Kakashi was confused at first, but realized that his ebony-haired opponent was in a fighting stance. He tried attacking, but was amazed when his blade was pushed aside. He was disarmed, kicked across his shins, and then took a palm strike in the face. It didn't stop there, the Uchiha then used the wooden kodachi and his left hand to beat Kakashi into submission so quickly that he had no chance to fight back. Sasuke retrieved his sticks and sealed them up. "So what exactly was that, Sasuke?" Kakashi asked. "It's an art from some lost culture called Arnis. Using sticks, short blades and knives primarily, it's fast, brutal and all close fighting, so it negates the effectiveness of long weapons like katana and even most kodachi styles. And the palm strikes are a product of your double arm blades, I assume." Kakashi pointed to the gauntlets that lay beside them. "Partially, the people who created Arnis didn't use closed fists. Plus my training with the assassins has let me use their special weapons." Sasuke smirked. "Alright Sasuke, let's see who's the better assassin," Naruto said, stepping up. "No weapons, all empty hands. Just like your mentor had you do." Naruto was of course talking about the test both him and likely Sasuke had to do where they fought their mentor for as long as they could. You had to last an hour empty-handed. It was thought that if you could fight a full-fledged assassin for an hour bare-handed, then you could put up with the stresses of battle with any weapon. "So do we go the full time limit?" Sasuke asked. "No, I think that 15 minutes is enough. Kakashi, can you have time?" "Sure." Kakashi pulled out his pocket watch and watched the time. Naruto attacked first with a straight punch, blocked by Sasuke, but the low uppercut knocked him back. Continuing his advance with a flurry of fists, elbows, knees and kicks kept Sasuke on his heels. Naruto was of greater build than him, taller, more muscular and outweighing him. Naruto found that Sasuke's only advantage was that his style was used to combat traditional styles. Sasuke finally made his way around the waves of blows that rained down on him. He ducked under a punch, putting his arm up to block the knee that came, and he shoulder tackled his opponent away. Arms, knife and ridge hands assaulted the blonde, elbows, shins and knees found their marks as Sasuke was faster than his stronger adversary. A ridge hand across the side of the head staggered Naruto, and that was when he gained his ground. Naruto blocked most of the blows that came his way, feeling one or two strike him. Sasuke then grabbed his defending arm and tried to throw him by his arm. Naruto clamped to the arm, dropping to a knee and rolling back, slamming Sasuke on his back. This was where Sasuke had known he'd lost the battle. Naruto was good at ground fighting. He felt the leg straddle his left arm, the hands on his wrist, and finally the pain in his elbow that told him he'd been put into an armbar. He tapped, knowing full well what armbars did to arms. "So you're familiar with Jujutsu?" Naruto smiled, standing up. 10 minutes left. Kakashi called out. "My family descends from samurai. Jujutsu was taught as our bare-handed combat style." Sasuke took a different stance. His feet sideways, he put his arms out, rear elbow tucked in front arm straight ahead. "Then let's roll." Naruto advanced, slapping the arm down, a common thing among Jujutsu ka. Sasuke took his turn, grabbing a shoulder, he turned and threw Naruto to the ground with a hip throw. The battle between the two went on for the full 15 minutes, they separated every 5 minutes or so, standing again and switching their methods of fighting. First it was the mixed arts, then Jujutsu, then boxing. "Time!" Kakashi shouted. They separated, faces and bodies bruised, joints sore, and Sasuke was nursing a cut below his left eye from Naruto's fist. Man, those two did a number on each other. Sakura set to work with her medical training, healing the cut under Sasuke's eye and the bruises on their bodies. "Sasuke, you fixed your eyes." Sakura noticed he wasn't wearing the black welding goggles anymore. Yeah, but I can use them still, just like my normal Sharingan. Sasuke wouldn't demonstrate because of what it would do to his eyes to activate them in broad daylight. Downside is that I can only use my Sharingan at night or in the dark. Naruto sat on the ground, drinking some water when he sensed the people coming. He stood, grabbing his sword. "Tsunade requests your presence," the assassin said. Many had been stationed in Konoha to act as soldiers, it was the same for ninja, they were sent to Massif, given a crash course in assassin methods and put to work. "Alright then, let's go." Naruto put his boots and gauntlets back on, he wore his sword across his back and carried throwing knives instead of his crossbow. His knife was strapped to his thigh. At the Hokage's office they all stood, waiting to find out the problem. "We've been asked by Tsunade to send some of our ninjas to assist them, they've fallen under attack by the organization Akatsuki, and they require our best soldiers. I'm sending you 4. Tsunade said. All of them nodded. "This is a double S-class mission. Kill anyone who gets in your way." "Yes ma'am." The 4 said in unison. They set off almost immediately. Sitting outside, carefully concealed in the desert were the 4 assisting forces. They plotted their invasion of the allied country. The invasion happened quickly, Kakashi went with Sasuke, it was decided that an assassin should be in each half of the group. Naruto and Sakura went together, taking the eastern entrance, closer to where the civilian shelter would be. Sasuke and Kakashi entered over the northwestern wall. Naruto was on edge when he saw no one guarding the gate, he'd assumed that someone from the opposing force would be guarding the entrances, he drew his crossbow, peeking around the corner, he waved to Sakura, signaling safety, and they went in. Sasuke and Kakashi sat atop the wall, scoping out the terrain below. Suddenly they saw 3 figures, one looking human, another like a giant bird, and the third an amorphous blob with a giant metal scorpion's tail. "Those would be our targets," Sasuke said, identifying the red clouds on the cloak. "Fire the flare and I'll move in." Kakashi pulled out his sword, moving down the wall with extreme speed, he jumped so that he would land on the rooftops below. Sasuke had launched a massive fireball into the air, that was the signal he was to send up if the enemy were found. Naruto and Sakura saw the fireball and immediately ran to the area it came from, it was a ways away, but with their speed, they covered the distance quickly. Naruto rounded a corner to find Kakashi dodging explosive clay birds, Sasuke was dodging all manner of projectiles. "Sakura, take the clay thrower, I'm going for the puppet." Naruto fired a bolt at the puppet's tail in an attempt to disable it. He fired bolt after bolt, Sakura attacked the sculptor, dodging the clay birds that were exploding behind her. Finally she got close enough to attack with her fist, the leather glove smashed through the enemy's jaw, bones cracking, the target was hit, and damn well by anyone's judgment. Naruto had run out of bolts and decided to take this battle closer. The puppet had a very good system of detection, Naruto could find no way to get around the traps that attacked him. Sasuke hit him with the fire. Naruto shouted, his affinity was wind, and as Sasuke began the fire jutsu, Naruto began a wind one that would increase power. Fire style. Art of Great Fireball. Wind style. Art of Hurricane. The two hit their target at the same time, the powerful wind fanning the massive flames, melting the armor of the puppet. The puppet master arose from his smoldering and melted armor, only to have a pair of blades laid across his neck. "Where is Gaara?" Naruto demanded. "My partner, whom your lady friend just flattened over there, had him on that bird," the puppeteer said. "I take it my life is very close to its end." "Your assumption is correct." Sasuke pulled his sword, spilling the man's blood on the scorched puppet. Sakura held the clay user by his cloak, reaching the same answer at about the same time. She reached behind her and pulled a dagger from its sheath and thrust it under the man's chin, giving it a twist she felt his life spill across her hands and forearms. "Mission accomplished," Kakashi said, currently helping Gaara back onto his feet. "He looks to be nursing a mean concussion, but he seems fine other than that. Let's get him to bed." They took to the hospital which was nearby, the Anbu posted to protect the injured were divided, one group went to the shelter, the others helped the Konoha ninja clear the corpses of the fallen Suna ninja and the 2 Akatsuki. By the day's end, Gaara had regained consciousness and had healed mostly, but his concussion still left him slightly dizzy. Naruto had come in, seeing the current Tsunade sitting in a hospital bed. "Hey Gaara, looks like they gave you a good ass kicking," Naruto said. "Happens to the best of us. They took us by surprise, the scorpion puppet killed nearly a dozen Anbu. The explosives master caused hundreds of thousands of collateral damage, but we've got no deaths from him. I remember falling, but I don't remember much other than that. That explains the concussion and cuts." Sakura said she was currently sitting in a chair, rubbing an ointment on her arms to help with the sunburn she had. "I'm thinking it's time for an outfit change, I've been wearing pretty much the same thing since I graduated from the academy," Sakura stated. "Something that has more coverage." Sakura's outfit did indeed reveal a lot of skin, making places like deserts dangerous. Plus you're the only one of us who hasn't changed what you wear since I've come to Konoha. Naruto and Sasuke had both changed their attire since then. Sasuke came through the door to the hospital, covered in sand and looking tired. Digging graves in the desert is harder than one would think. Sasuke said. We've got 40,000 for the puppet master. And the explosives man is worth the same, how are we going to divide it up? Sasuke held up a stack of bills. Sasori was after all a ninja who was native to Sunagakure. 20,000 for each of us. Kakashi said. If you'd all excuse me, I'd like to get some real sleep. Gaara said quietly. Sasuke and Kakashi had headed to the hotel. Sakura and Naruto decided to look around the town. It was late, but they wanted to get some fresh air before they returned to the hotel. Currently they were walking, arm in arm down some undamaged street. They'd closed down the damaged parts for repair which was to begin tomorrow. While walking, Naruto had offered his cloak, he'd felt her shivering from the cold desert winter. I'm thinking of using my old sword again. I like this one, but I've gotten much stronger since I came, so I think I can use the other one for a long period now. I had to get a new one a while ago, the one I had before broke. Ask Tenten to make you one, her swords are great. Naruto said. Or you can take this one. Naruto patted the blade on his side. I wouldn't want to take it, it was made specially for. I'm offering it to you, Sakura, please take it. Naruto said. Besides, I'm going to be using my other one anyway. But what about the engravings? Naruto could tell that Sakura wanted it but also didn't because of its value. I've got my sword and if you show them that while I'm there, they'll see it as a symbol of my feelings for you. Naruto turned to her. I want it to be Sakura. I love you. Sakura could feel herself go weak in the knees, but to her defense, she'd been dating Naruto for almost 3.5 years, even though he was away, he still sent foxes with letters, constantly saying that he missed her more than anything. The warm hands on her neck and the lips on hers only worsened the effect. When they parted, she returned those same 3 magical words. They'd returned to the hotel, the rooms were only fit for 2 people, and Sasuke and Kakashi had taken one, so Naruto and Sakura took the other one. Standing at his bed he removed his guy. Sakura's eyes were fixed on the well-muscled and tanned body that was her boyfriend's, he turned, seeing her still wrapped in his cloak. See something you like? He smirked. Sakura got up, leaving the cloak on the bed, going over to him, the events that were to follow could only be described as making love. When Sasuke woke up, Kakashi sat in a chair, reading a book that was not Icha Paradise. Oh wake them up, we've got to leave by 10, and it's 8:30. Why don't you do it Kakashi? Because I know what they were doing last night and frankly I'd much rather you see Naruto naked than for me to see him naked. Sasuke glared at his teacher, getting dressed quickly and going across the hall. He knocked on the door, shouting into the room, trying to wake them up without going in the room. Finally Naruto answered the door, wearing only his boxers. What? Sasuke saw the clothes scattered about the room and immediately it all made sense. Kakashi sent me to wake you up, we need to leave by 10 and it's 8:30. Sasuke said. Give us some time, I've still got to wake her up. Naruto closed the door, he roused her. They showered before dressing and then went to meet Kakashi and Sasuke. Before they went to the door, Sakura stopped Naruto. Could you please not tell the others? Sakura asked. That's fine, I wasn't planning on it anyway. They left the room and across the hall, Kakashi sat in his chair, snickering behind a book. So Naruto, how was it? Kakashi looked at his student. How was what? Naruto tried to feign ignorance. Well, I'm surprised that Sasuke slept through it, Sakura was quite loud. His grin was visible under the mask. Sakura's face immediately burned with a redness that put the sunburns on her arms to shame. Kakashi, if you tell a soul about this I'll have your head. Naruto said, quite serious. My lips are sealed. Kakashi got up, retrieving a bagel from the cupboard. Well anyway, I hope you guys were protected, I don't think Sakura would want a child right now. It was weird to hear Kakashi talk about things like that. We did, if you looked in the drawers of the nightstand they put some in there. Naruto said. We were careful. Sakura said, still red from the thought of what Kakashi had said before. The sound of the shower shutting off alerted them to Sasuke finishing his shower. When he came out he appeared to be shivering. Did you just take a cold shower Sasuke? Naruto asked. Yes, I just took a cold shower. Sasuke glared at his friend. A knock at the door changed their focus. Naruto opened the door to find Gaara's sister Temari waiting. I'm going back to Konoha with you. Temari said. She was the ambassador for Suna and would come back to Suna for a few months a year. She saw the shivering Sasuke. Why is he shivering in the desert? Cold shower. Please come in, we're not leaving for a while. Temari joined in on the banter, not being told of Naruto and Sakura's actions, they'd all decided to change the subject and were currently talking about everything and nothing. "Hey Sasuke, how come you've never had a girlfriend?" Sakura asked. "Because fangirls are not girlfriend material." Sasuke sat in a chair, his cloak was warming him up quickly. "There's plenty more than fangirls in Konoha." Naruto was making oatmeal. "I know that Tenten has some friends that aren't even close to what one would call a fangirl. Maybe she can set you up." They ate their breakfast in this fashion and barely left the city by 10. Temari talked with Sakura for much of the first day after Sakura had asked about the battle kimono that Temari wore. Sasuke and Naruto were talking together about many things, eventually the topic of conversation landed back on Sasuke's dating life. "What about Temari?" Naruto asked. "I barely know her." Sasuke sputtered. "That's what dates are for, just ask her out, I'm sure she'll say yes." "Are you sure about this, Naruto?" Sasuke seemed skeptical. "Absolutely. Just go to her and ask her if you can treat her to dinner, and if she says yes, then it's on, if no, then no harm done." Naruto had lied through his teeth when he said he was sure about it. But it worked. "Alright fine, when we set up camp I'll ask her," Sasuke said. "Good." Naruto smirked triumphantly beneath his hood. When they bedded down, Naruto nudged Sasuke. He approached Temari nervously. "Temari was wondering if you'd like to get some dinner with me when we get back to Konoha." Sasuke stammered out. Sakura looked on in shock. Sasuke, the cool-headed prince of Konoha, was nervous around women. "Uchiha Sasuke, are you asking me out on a date?" Temari smiled. "Yes Temari, I am." Sasuke smiled, trying to show self-confidence. "Then Sasuke, I have this to say, yes I'll go with you." "Congratulations Sasuke," Naruto said mentally. He looked at his friend. "Well then, if you'll excuse me, I have to get some sleep," she said. Sasuke had first watch, so he was left to his own devices for a few hours longer. Sasuke was rather embarrassed about his little secret. He'd been trained by the world's best killers, taught to face the impossible unflinchingly, and here he was nervous over asking a girl out. Fate had a funny way of doing things, Sasuke said to himself. But it did all work itself out eventually. Sasuke and Naruto were in the training room. The Uchiha was battering the stationary training bag. Naruto was hanging from a bar on the ceiling, doing sit-ups. "I'm telling you Sasuke, at least act like you're confident, even if you've no clue what's going on." He unhooked his legs and began doing pull-ups. A ninja's best tool is deception. This goes doubly so for someone who is dating another ninja. But I don't know what the hell to say. Sasuke took his sticks in hand, assaulting the sand-filled canvas with the weapons. "Would you like to know 100 ways to kill someone with those chopsticks?" He joked. "Just relax, remember your training, you can't fight if you're tense, just relax, be yourself, and don't bring weapons." "Why not?" "Just trust me on that one, don't bring any weapons." He dropped from the bar and began on another bag, "And it's getting into winter now, if she gets cold, offer your coat." Sasuke's outfit was very similar to Naruto's, only he wore a black cloak. He was clothed from head to toe in black. "That makes sense I guess." Sasuke shrugged. "Wait, coat, not cloak." "Yeah, we're going to get you some dating clothes." Naruto finished. "You don't have to meet her until 7, that's 12 hours from now. So as soon as we finish, we'll go get them in a bit." "You wore your usual clothes whenever you went out with Sakura." "True, but I never really asked her out. Our first date was a trip to the movies. If it can be called a date, there was also the time I took her to see the sunset." Naruto shrugged. "That's unfair, she basically fell right into your lap." "But she did. Or I guess since she was here first, I fell into her lap." They both finished training at about the same time. They showered, dressed, and they went to the shopping district. Finding the right store, they ducked into the store. "How may I help you too?" the store owner asked. "Yes, my friend here has a date tonight, I was hoping you could give him something to wear," Naruto requested. The lady's eyes lit up. She set about with measurements, color and fabric suggestions, all manner of things. The final product was Uchiha Sasuke standing in black slacks, a royal blue silk shirt, and a black vest covering that. He had a black pea coat over his arm, admiring the lady's work. It was a rather pricey purchase, but Naruto had convinced him that it was worth every bit of it. Sasuke emerged from the tailor's shop with a pair of suit bags draped over his shoulder. "Did you really have to go that far, Naruto? 2 suits and 2 different kinds of jackets? Really?" "Yes, it was absolutely necessary," he stated. "If you don't have formal clothes, then what kind of man are you? I've never seen you wear anything formal." "I have a suit, I have 6. He looked at his friend. "They were expensive though, so I'd prefer not to wear them." Sasuke was lost for words. Sasuke looked in the mirror, he had to admit, he did look good. The white undershirt, the blue suit, it was a dark blue and pinstriped, a blue that looked black in low light, and the belted trench coat over that. He adjusted the red tie, it was different, he'd usually dressed for freedom of motion, concealment, and for the brotherhood, now here he was dressing to look good. When 7 o'clock finally came, Naruto practically forced Sasuke out the door. Sasuke was to pick up Temari at the home where the Suna ambassador stays. He headed there immediately, his trench coat flapping in the wind. When he arrived, he knocked and waited. When Temari finally came out, she was wearing a black dress, it ended at just below her knees, had no real back to speak of, and fit her to a T. "Temari, you look and nice." Sasuke stammered out. "Thank you, Sasuke, you look nice as well." She looked him over. "So what's the plan?" "We've got dinner reservations, and I'd figured we'd go from there." "I see, then let's get going, sounds like we've got a busy night." She smiled. The whole dinner, Sasuke tried as hard as he could to not stutter or stammer. It royally pissed him off that he did so. There were a couple times that he would catch himself and Temari would giggle. Then, it was worth it, but the rest of the time he would just carefully think about what he would say. At the end of dinner, they wandered the city. Sasuke had surrendered his trench coat and he really couldn't blame Temari for being cold. Even on this fall night, it was rather cold and she wasn't really dressed appropriately for cold. Their banter continued for a while until Sasuke stopped cold. "What is it?" "Them." He pointed to a group of 7 people, all dressed in black pants, and a black guy with a 3-piece chest plate and shoulder pads. Their 8 were shaped as dragon horns. They were the Hayabusa, a branch of the Uchiha clan, the elite of the elite. "Sasuke, come with us, we need you to come with us. It's important that you do." "I won't. Please leave us to our walk," he said. "Fine, then we'll take you by force." They drew their swords. Sasuke removed his suit's coat and rolled his sleeves up, revealing a seal tattooed into his skin. He ran his hand over it, producing a dagger. The Hayabusa knew that Sasuke had been trained by assassins, but not of his proficiency with a dagger. Sasuke was gone in a flash, and the first Hayabusa was down in a cry of pain and spray of blood. The second saw Sasuke and attempted to swing on him, but had his sword blocked, he was disarmed and ran through with his own blade. The third and fourth came at him from opposite sides, swinging in different directions. The first was swinging down, the second low and to the side. Sasuke jumped into the one swinging down, kicking him in the groin and grabbing his sword, slashing from shoulder to thigh. "Come on, I'll kill the rest of you if you want." His voice wasn't the usually warm voice of the Uchiha, but the cold voice of a trained assassin. "Sasuke, Madara is back, we need you to help, your brother has gone into hiding, we can't locate him, and you're our only hope. The Hayabusa were formally disbanded 10 years ago. That you're using the elite name of my clan is defiling it." Sasuke threw the sword straight for the speaker, only to have one of the men step in the way. The second rushed Sasuke, only to be intercepted by a kick through his knee. "If you really are a member of the Hayabusa, beat me and prove it." Sasuke held up his dagger. The man removed his headgear, underneath was a dark face covered in scars and burns. Sasuke recognized him as Uchiha Hayabusa Ryu. "So be it." He flashed hand seals, and as he was about to finish, Sasuke beat him to the punch, muttering in Arabic, blowing the man's leg off. Screaming in agony, the man looked up at Sasuke. "You've offended my clan, and me, only 7 people. Come on, what do you think I am? A fucking child?" "Sasuke, we didn't mean to offend you, it's just that you're the only one that can help." The man pleaded, handing 2 scrolls to the Uchiha assassin. "That's what our intelligence has gathered. It tells of what we know of Akatsuki and Madara." Sasuke accepted the scroll, the man then took his dagger and committed suicide. Sasuke turned around, his shirt, face, and pants were all covered in blood. "I think that I should change before we go anywhere else." He smirked. "Yeah, me too, since it looks like we've got some reading to do." She smiled. "Your place or mine?" "Well, I'd think mine, since I've got considerably better security, plus I'm tired of this damn suit." "Well, let's stop by my house to grab some decent clothing. This is my favorite dress, but it's not good for any sort of ninja activity." She smiled at him as they went towards her home, which wasn't far. At the door, Temari stopped. "No peeking, Sasuke." She eyed him with what he swore was a challenging look. "Wouldn't dream of it." He smiled. Walking inside, he saw that the ambassador's estate was an amazing dwelling. The walls were painted a tan color, there were a number of pictures of Temari and her family, which he'd assumed she brought herself. There were scrolls en masse on the shelves, comfortable couches and chairs, a TV, many movies, and this was just the living room. The house was big, nothing compared to his house, but Sasuke did live with the next in line for Hokage, the son of the best leader ever to grace Konoha, and one of the most dangerous people to walk the planet. When Temari emerged from her room, she wore a black yukata, black leggings, and her usual sandals. She had her fan and a short sword, he'd never seen the sword before. "Where'd you get that sword?" Sasuke pointed to the blade. "It was a gift from my brother, he sent it ahead of us. I don't know why he didn't just give it to me before we left." She shrugged. It was a kodachi, a sword that was designed as a defense weapon, but when used properly could be a deadly offensive weapon. Back at the Uchiha Namika's mansion, Naruto had been watching a movie with Sakura when Sasuke walked in. "Really, Sasuke, couldn't you have avoided getting blood all over your clothes? I told you I shouldn't have worn formal clothes. I went and ruined them." "Don't worry about it, I have a soap that can get it out," he said. "So who did you kill?" "Let me get changed and I'll tell you." He went upstairs and into his room. Sasuke's assassin dress was slightly different than Naruto's. Instead of a black shirt, Sasuke wore a guy, over that was a leather chest plate, then his cloak. His boots weren't plated like Naruto's, but did have a steel toe and heel. He adjusted his gauntlets, made sure that his blades were all in working order, and that his sword was in place. He also chose a different weapon than Naruto. He had two dao, the broadswords used by the ancient Chinese culture. They attached into one sword and sheathed it as one. Aside from the cloak to hide his face, he had a mask, which he wore on missions. It resembled a dragon's face. He went downstairs, the scrolls in hand, everyone was sitting around the table. "We have a problem with Naruto. The Hayabusa, Uchiha's old elite, have revived. And it seems that Madara is acting as part of Akatsuki." He handed the scrolls to Naruto. The scrolls told of Akatsuki bases, member dossiers, movement, and the other scroll was entirely on Madara, his past, his known jutsu, his description, and weapons he may use. "I'll give these to Tsunade and we can have copies sent to Altair," Naruto said, rolling them back up. "Encrypted copies of course." "So Sasuke, what do you propose we do about this?" Naruto asked. "We need to find my brother. Without him, it'll be hard to bring down the Akatsuki," Sasuke said. "Well, little brother, that won't be as hard as you may think." Itachi walked into the room and sat down next to his brother. "I see that you have father's blue spirit mask. A good choice, that'll spread fear, you're even using the same kind of swords as him. When did you get here, Itachi?" Sasuke knew the truth of the Uchiha massacre, and he had reason to believe that's why the Hayabusa had gone into hiding. They had always been loyal to the Hokage, not to the leader of the Uchiha, much like the Anbu had been when it was still run by the Uchiha clan. "Just after Naruto sent you on your date." He smiled. "Well, I've been here all day, but I didn't come here until just a few hours ago." He looked up at the ceiling. "And if you want to find the rest of the Hayabusa, I know where to find them. That's what our next move will be, we'll bring them here, contact Massif, and then move on the Akatsuki bases. I know where they all are, their layout, and who's stationed there." Itachi smirked. "Finally, Madara will be going down." Stood at the base of a mountain, looking up, they saw trees. They began their expedition, they began at dawn, sleeping at the base of the mountain before. They figured that they could make at least a few miles before the darkness hit. Sakura looked at her current attire and was glad she decided to change her mode of dress. She wore leggings and a black undershirt like Temari, but over that, she wore knee-length shorts and a guy. Temari had joked about how she looked like a guy, but Naruto then replied with a comment along the lines of "no guy has curves like those." Which made Sakura blush. Across her back, underneath her cloak was Naruto's sword. After the first day of travel, they bedded down. Naruto and Sakura had taken one tent, Itachi had his own, as did Sasuke and Temari. The next morning, they'd awakened to being surrounded by nearly 2 feet of snow. "Well, Sasuke, you wouldn't happen to have any snowshoes hand, would you?" "Nope, but I've got something better." He began muttering something in Arabic. "Summoning art." Audible as he finished, a massive lion appeared in front of him. "Well, Nico, it seems that you're doing well. We need some help." Sasuke pointed up. "We need to be up there. And it'll be difficult with 2 feet of snow stopping us. So I'm a pack mule now. Do I have to carry all 5 of you?" "No, I've got my own ride." Naruto then summoned his own animal. "Hey, you like snow, right? It's not my least favorite thing to walk in, I'm glad these Hayabusa don't live in the desert." The Kyuubi said. He was in a smaller form, largely due to the fact that the seal on Naruto's stomach only allowed a small amount of his chakra out. But by human standards, he was still big, making a horse seem like a small animal. "Hello Ojibal, it's nice to see that you didn't get stuck with a Dumbus." "My thoughts exactly. The assassins definitely picked a good one to pair me with." Lion summons were all paired with a single human, one cat to one human. "I quite like this one, he's smart and has a sense of humor. No sense in dawdling, let's get going." They mounted their animals, Naruto and Sakura mounted the fox, its lithe but powerful frame allowed its speed over power. The great lion however carried 3 people, Sasuke had Temari in front of him and his brother behind him. But the great bound forward they began up the hill, they covered the land in leaps and bounds, thanks to their beasts. They dispelled the summons before they got too close to the village and decided to hike to the gate on foot. The path was narrow, flanked on either side by large wooden spikes, which looked to be the size of a reasonably sized tree. There were 2 guards on either side, who laid eyes on Itachi and his brother, who was practically a carbon copy of the man, and let them pass. The village was very different than normal ninja villages. The ground had been moved so that it was flat, with paths leading up to the mountain. All the dirt had been piled up at the sides of streets where no houses were. There were ninja all over, young children ran around, women did their shopping, and the men went about their work. Sasuke and Itachi decided to split up the group, one Uchiha with each. The Hayabusa had a particular knack, even when they were of Konoha's ranks, to be particularly hostile towards others. Sasuke and Temari asked around and finally pieced together that the village leader was at the top of the mountain, another 3,000 feet up. Their next goal was to get the other three and try and find somewhere to stay. Sasuke was getting tired of this, being surrounded by a group of people who wanted to fight, only to have to get blood all over his clothes. He drew his swords, separating them and taking a neutral stance. These Hayabusa were much faster than the ones that had come to Konoha, but there was less of them. Two came at once. Sasuke blocked an overhead slash and a sideways swipe. He kicked away the one that had attacked down and blocked the one who came in for a second attack from the opposite side. Temari had drawn her kodachi and was fighting off the ninja that had attacked her. None of them had decided to use their swords, favoring kunai and daggers. She tried not to deal any life-threatening blows, but some things just couldn't be avoided. Sasuke, on the other hand, attacked where and when he could, not caring if he killed, maimed, or simply stopped his attacker. He felled the last one with a thrust through the throat and turned to see Temari receive a knife in the side. He combined the swords, drew a throwing knife and then followed it, catching the man who dodged the knife and slammed him into the ground by his head. The Uchiha then proceeded to bring his sword around and cut clean through a man's leg. He stopped when there were no more enemies. That was when the clapping started. He looked for the source of the clapping, to find a man that looked exactly like Ryu. "I'm glad that my brother found you, that was a good show. I'm Ken, brother of Ryu, and son of Mirai. You're Uchiha Sasuke." "So I am. We need to speak with your father." "Not one to mince words, are we? Well then, have fun, he's at the temple on the top of the mountain, it's guarded by our best, and he's the only one allowed up there." Sasuke smirked. "You see what we can do, and there's still three more, one who is better than me, and another who is my older brother Itachi." The man stared at him in disbelief. "I don't think the guards will be a problem, but still, we'll try not to kill them if we don't have to. That, good Uchiha, will be your downfall, for they won't stop until you kill them." Sasuke shrugged and went in search of Naruto, Itachi and Sakura. They all managed to find each other. As it happened, Naruto, Itachi and Sakura had faced a similar group of attackers. 5 Hayabusa had attacked them. Naruto had never drawn his blade, dispatching 2 of them with his bare hands and a third with a blade that spent its time on the underside of his left arm. Is he really that much better than me? I was hard-pressed fighting with the swords, and even after all that training, I still can't match his skills. Sasuke thought to himself. When they had sparred in Konoha, it seemed like an even enough match, but now, Sasuke wasn't so sure. Even Itachi had used a sword, his kodachi. After a few hours of travel up the mountain, they came to a wall, guarded by 2 ninja on each side. "You cannot pass, only our clan's leader is allowed up in the mountain temple," the guard said, clearly the biggest one. "Leave, or I will be forced to kill you all." Naruto had trouble believing that 4 guards, regardless of their skill, could kill 2 Uchiha, himself, Sakura and Temari, who were regarded as the best kunoichi in the ranks of Suna and Konoha. Barring Tsunade from that, of course, as she was the Hokage. He smiled. "Let's make a deal, you and I fight with our bare hands, no weapons at all. If I kill you, then we pass, if you kill me, then the rest of us leave," Naruto said. "You think you can kill me with your bare hands, assassin?" He scoffed. "I'll accept your challenge." He threw down the spear he had. Removing the belt that held his sword and holsters for his other weapons, he set them down, removing his armor and guy, he showed powerful muscles and many scars. Naruto removed his gauntlets, sword belt, knives, and boots. There he stood, clad in only his trousers. Temari leaned over and whispered to Sakura. "You picked a good one, he's hot." Sakura snickered, biting back the laugh. Naruto stretched his arms and rolled his shoulders. "It's bad to treat a weapon like that, throwing it down. You should take better care of your equipment if you wish it to serve you well." He ducked the punch the man threw, a fast blow with quite a lot of power behind it, and delivered his own punch to the man's body. Stepping back, he smirked. The man went to move in and attack again, only to have his attempts thwarted by Naruto's speed. The elbow that collided with his head sent him staggering. "So sure you can beat me now, Hayabusa?" Naruto knew he was baiting the man. He dropped his hands to chest level and began bouncing on his toes, feeling the cold dirt below his feet. Once again, the Hayabusa attacked. Naruto ducked the punch, which lead him right into a knee. The knee made blood flow from his nose. "I am sure, assassin, and I'll make sure that I take much pleasure in killing you." Naruto grinned, stepping in, he punched the man in the face with a fast jab, then a second, and finally he lashed out with his powerful right hand. The ninja stumbled back, which was only accentuated by the hard side kick he received at the stomach. "That man stands no chance, Naruto's playing with him," Sasuke muttered. "I wouldn't be so sure, Naruto is good, but we have to remember that this is one of the Hayabusa's best," Itachi said, watching Naruto take a spinning back fist on his arm, countering with an uppercut. On the other hand, Naruto is picking him apart. "I saw how good he was 3 years ago, but this is ridiculous." Naruto kicked low, smashing the man's knee with his shin. He still wore a grin, his teeth coated with blood, looking more of a deep pink than white. "He's strong, but not as fast as Altair," Naruto thought. He stepped out of the way of a kick and punched at the man's ribs. The crunch that followed was reassuring. Naruto also felt the pain, his knuckles had been bruised, but the cold mountain air helped numb the pain. He was dealt a powerful blow, which knocked him down, but Naruto quickly rolled back onto his feet. He used his crouched stance, launching himself off his back foot and slamming his right hand into his enemy's face. He used that moment to reach out and grab the man's neck, pulling him in. He slammed the man to the ground, squeezing with his arm, killing the man. Standing up, he grabbed his shirt, cloak, socks and boots. Now fully dressed, he rearmed himself, his body and face all bore cuts and bruises, slowly fading. His nose had been broken, but it was healing. He could feel the cartilage working itself back into place. They walked by the guards, one had started running down the mountain, going to find another to replace the guard. Inside the wall, they found that the path continued and that there was a secondary and tertiary wall. All of which had its own set of guards. "Man, these people take their temples seriously," Sakura noted. They walked to the second wall. At that wall, the guards looked at them in bewilderment. "You made it past the first wall. How?" "I challenged a man with the scars, beating and killing him with my hands," Naruto said. "You lie. No person outside of our village could have beat Maro. Any of us could have, I was just the one who did," Naruto shrugged. "I'll kill more of you if you'd like." "No, not you, her." The man pointed to Sakura. "I want to see her fight Kumo, you'll do it with knives." Naruto nodded. "Sakura, you're up." Sakura smirked and drew her tanto. The man drew a long, wickedly curved knife that got wider at the end and then ended in a point. "That man's using a small kukri," said Itachi. "No matter, Sakura will be able to handle herself, she's stronger than she looks," Naruto said, sure that he was right. "She must be, if she's wearing your sword," Itachi replied. Sakura stood, her left heel raised slightly, all her weight on her back foot. The knife in her right hand waved back and forth. Kumo was the first to strike, narrowly missing Sakura's throat as she lashed out with her own knife, slicing the underside of Kumo's arm. Kumo stepped back, shocked that she had such speed. She'd also cut a vital tendon in his arm, 3 of his fingers went limp. He took the knife in his left hand and attacked again. Sakura dodged out of the way of the copping stroke and stabbed the ninja below his right eye. Wiping the blood from the blade, she sheathed it and turned to her friends. Onto the third wall. Naruto looked at his girlfriend, then at Sasuke, then Itachi and Temari, whom seemed to be mortified that Sakura had just put her knife through a man's face. "What?" she asked the blonde woman. "It was him or me, and there was no way I'm gonna die on this damn mountain." Sakura grinned. "You're too much like him." Temari pointed at Naruto. "Well, let's find out who's at the third wall." Itachi smirked. "I want the next guy, watching you guys fight has me itching for one of my own." Everyone looked at Itachi. "What? Can't I want to kick ass too?" Sasuke laughed. "Brother, I've never heard you talk like this." He laughed. "That's because the only other time I have was with the Akatsuki. Now that I've once again rejoined Konoha's ranks, I can talk like I have for the past few years." He'd done away with his cloak and had reclaimed a spot in the Anbu. He wasn't wearing a mask at the moment however, since he'd had yet to begin his official duties. "Well, let's stop dawdling, I want to get off this damn mountain." Naruto pushed on, up the path that they were walking. "I bet 100 Ryu that we'll be ambushed on this road." Naruto smirked. "I doubt that." Sasuke, Itachi, and Temari agreed. Sakura sided with Naruto, he had good insight when it came to topics like this. They walked a long mountain path, which soon turned to stairs, wide steps that didn't descend quickly, rather like most other temples in the nation. Suddenly Naruto grabbed Sakura and Temari, pulling them down. Itachi and Sasuke dropped as well. Arrows flew over their head. "You all owe me." Naruto dodged the sword and rammed his arm blade into the ninja that attacked him. All 5 enemy ninja were felled quickly. The blonde assassin collected his money. They continued up the path the rest of the way in peace. They happened upon a wall, but not like the other one, it was the side of a plateau. Guards were standing on either side of it, half a dozen on either side. "Sasuke, you want to do a little bonding with your older brother?" Itachi smirked, he drew a kodachi. Sasuke drew his long knife. They stood in the middle of the opening, the guard circled them, not knowing how dangerous the Uchiha brothers were, individually and together. The first two came, Sasuke kicked one away, as his brother ducked, he blocked the man's weapon as Itachi impaled the man. Itachi turned in unison with his brother, killing the charging guard as Sasuke struck one down as well. 3 down, 3 to go. Sasuke and Itachi simultaneously performed the hand seals for the Grand Fireball Jutsu and with 2 fireballs, narrowed the numbers to 1, which Naruto felled with a throwing knife. I've never seen someone move with such synchrony. Temari said, still surprised at their movements. Itachi and I used to do this stuff all the time when we were younger. Sasuke wiped the blood from his blade. Despite what many people believe, Itachi was a good brother. Even if he did kill our parents and entire family. Sasuke had learned the truth long ago, he'd read every file he had in the house, from bank statements to personal journals, his fathers told him about the coup that was being planned. Finally he'd understood the whole business, but was still blinded by his rage and lust for revenge. Now, Sasuke had grown up, learned the nature of ninja, became something that was even more deadly, and moved on. Currently, he was climbing the side of a plateau. Brings back memories, doesn't it, Sakura? Naruto smirked, recalling the time they'd spent on that plateau in Massif. Well, yeah, but we didn't have to fight our way to the plateau, and I think that one was taller. She said as she reached the top of it. Yeah, definitely taller. She said, looking upon the temple at the top. It was a temple alright, looking much like a Buddhist temple, but instead of statues of Buddha, there was many statues of Tengu. Just like home. Sasuke said. Yup, this is definitely a Hayabusa temple. Itachi agreed. Let's see who's home. Itachi shrugged, pressing on. He stopped and jumped back, as he did, a human-like form swung a massive sword at where he'd been. That's a demon, not a Bijuu, but a demon no less. The Nine-Tails Fox said. We've got a sticky situation here guys, that's a demon if I've ever seen one. Naruto said. He drew his sword, Sasuke drew his dao, Itachi had his kodachi, as did Temari. Sakura drew her sword, feeling the light blade rest comfortably in her hand. In the blink of an eye, the demon was on Sasuke, its massively muscular form swung the Zanbatsu at him with both hands, forcing him to his knee. Itachi and Naruto attacked from both sides, only to be intercepted by a pair of tentacles that sprouted from beneath the clothes of the attacker. Sakura and Temari tried for a projectile attempt, the kunai flew true, straight for vital spots, but they simply hit the skin and fell. Sasuke had managed to force his way to a standing position, the blade still heavy on his. He stepped wide with his right leg and slid his left closer to it, shifting his body, causing the heavy blade to fall, cutting deep into the ground. The demon pulled hard. Itachi. Amaterasu. Sasuke shouted, referring to the black flames that Itachi could conjure. What he hadn't expected was the drain in his chakra and the black flames to come without his brother's consent. He collapsed from the drain, it made him lightheaded. What the hell? He looked up, seeing the world in a whole new perception, far sharper than his previous Sharingan. The demon screamed in agony as the black fire burned its flesh and bones. Naruto and Itachi extracted themselves from the grip of the tentacles. The 3 men looked at each other. It's not been practiced before, but if an Uchiha comes into contact with a powerful demon and is under extreme levels of stress, then his Manjutsu Sharingan will awaken itself. Itachi said, the demon had burned to ashes by this time, all that remained was those ashes, which were burning, and the sword. I've never felt this kind of power before. Sasuke muttered. He stood up, sweeping his eyes over the temple, he discovered several more demons inside. We've got company guys. He picked up his blades and sheathed them, favoring a more forward approach, he grabbed the Zanbatsu of the demon. That's a development. Naruto muttered, readying his sword, taking his dagger in his other hand. Stay close Sakura, Temari, watch Sasuke's ass. Naruto noted that it was something that she was already doing, quite literally. Sakura chuckled. They all approached the temple, demons poured from the entrance. Sasuke held his sword in his hands, dashing the demons to pieces in single blows, their motion seeming too slow. Naruto ducked under the claws of a demon, gutting it with his dagger, pivoting into his next slash, and a third stab. Sakura blocked the claws of a single demon, kicked it in the stomach, and elbowed it across the face, which she discovered to be iron hard. Stick with the blade Sakura. She thought to herself, cutting one in half and thrusting the assassin's blade through another's skull. Temari wasn't a fool, let the assassins play with their blades, she was a wind user. Her fan's gales stripped the demons of their speed, cutting bloody gashes in their bodies. Itachi had to admire his brother's work, the sword he was using must have weighed nearly 100 pounds, but he was using it like a smaller weapon. Itachi himself favored the lighter, often shorter blades, felling demon after demon with single strokes of his blade. Finally, the 5 stood still in a sea of demon corpses. Their glances shifted from one to another, the sudden lack of action left a vacuum in their bodies, the adrenaline that was coursing through their bodies was suddenly useless. Sasuke heard the clapping first. It was slow, deliberate clapping to draw attention to the clapper. Each of them looked up to see a muscular man, white-haired and bare-chested. The sword seems to have found its new host. The blade you hold is the dragon sword in its incomplete form. The man said. It will bond with you, taking the form of the weapon your spirit tells it. Sasuke felt the energy inside the blade and noted the shift as the blade shifted. You mustn't let go of it, no matter what happens, if you do, it will self-destruct, killing all of us. Sasuke tightened his grip on the sword. The blade seemed to be shrinking, shaping itself. The sword had finished its shape shifting, now in the Uchiha's hands was a katana with a blade as black as night, a deep crimson handle, as well as black handle fittings and a circular pommel which depicted a dragon. It seems that it's finished, try it out, form your chakra around it. Mirai said. Sasuke did as he was instructed and was surprised to see that the sword erupted in black flame. Just like the flames you used to kill the demon. You seem to know a whole lot about this sword. Itachi stated. I've spent my entire life studying it, protecting it, using it, and now I'm passing it on. Mirai sat down. Now why are you here? No, come inside, have some tea, then tell me. Mirai gestured for them to come in. Naruto explained the situation, Mirai nodded several times throughout the conversation. It seems that my son trifled with the wrong bunch and got himself killed, but I understand his concern, you now possess the key to destroying Madara. That sword is also known as Demon Slayer, because that was why it was created. Madara himself was once human, but if my understanding is correct, has changed substantially. Thanks for watching this video. If you really enjoy this video, like, subscribe and comment down below and turn on that bell notification. Don't forget to support and follow the 62,635,377 for writing that awesome fanfic and also make sure to comment on this story link in the description. See you in the next video. Goodbye.